Part 81. I'm Really Immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ryu Xiahua. Chapter 825. Zhu Nang looked at the humans in front of him. Some alien beasts might think that he was also an alien beast when they saw him, but Zhu Nang didn't think so. Even in the mythical age when alien beasts and humans coexisted, there were many powerful humans among them. Although there are few humans who are powerful enough to rival alien beasts, they still exist. Some of them have survived as myths and legends, leaving traces of their existence in the mythical age. It is entirely possible that these powerful humans survived or left descendants who inherited the powerful power they possessed in the mythical age. Thinking of this, Zhu Yan felt much more comfortable, because it did not lose to the weak humans now, but to the strong or the blood of the strong in the mythical era. The person in front of me is very different from the fragile humans of modern times, but I don't know much about things in the mythical age. Most of them are just the blood of strong men, not the strong men in the mythical age who have lived for a long time. At the end of the mythical age, the alien beasts hated the dragons for rebelling because of humans, but there was no life or death hatred for the previous humans. Sometimes alien beasts and humans can even coexist together. Many myths about humans and alien beasts have prototypes and historical events. So if you tell the story of the past to the humans in front of you, it can only be regarded as an exchange between elders and younger generations, and does not involve leaking secrets, betrayal, or surrender after being coerced. Zhu Yan raised his head and looked at the sea of stars above his head, with the roar of the river in his ears. It still remembers the final scene. The burning flame of Nuwa's life collided with the huge meteorite, and the explosion shook the world. The meteorite shattered into countless large and small fireballs and scattered in all directions. When it fell to the ground, it was basically burned out. Even if there was some dregs left, it no longer posed much of a threat to the alien beasts on the ground. The flames of Nuwa were also torn into pieces, like burning birds, fallen leaves on fire, and gorgeous mandalas scattered all over the land. Not even a bit of bone or flesh has fallen from the once huge body of Nuwa Empress. Who can imagine the pain of having your entire body torn apart, exploded, scattered, and decomposed? Didn't she endure so much pain just so that the alien beasts could survive? If I don't cooperate with the human in front of me now and get killed by him, wouldn't I be living up to the sacrifice of Empress Nuwa? How can I be worthy of Empress Nuwa? Now I have no choice but to bear the humiliation and surrender for the sake of Empress Nuwa. When heaven's punishment came, we gathered on an island in the mirage. The huge meteorite that finally landed was heading towards this island. If Nuwa had not resisted the meteorite, not only all the creatures on the island would have been wiped out. I am afraid that the surrounding volcanoes on the seabed will be detonated. Zhu Hao hesitated for a while and finally answered the question. Mirage C, Dongfang Shuo's 10 Continents records. I once followed my teacher to the Zuling Tomb, Fuzang, Mirage C, Minjai Hill, Chunyang Tomb, under the Shiking, and the abyss of the Moon Palace. Lu Chang'an recalled it and realized that the mirage in Zhu Yan's mouth was not necessarily the mirage in his impression. In the eyes of ordinary people, the geographical environment of this world changes very little throughout a lifetime. It is nothing more than experiencing an earthquake or a volcanic eruption to feel the charm of the changing world. In Lu Chang'an's eyes, the geographical environment of this world has been changing, and it has only become slightly stable in the past tens of millions of years. Therefore, even Lu Chang'an cannot be familiar with every corner of the world, because the place he has been to is a mountain peak, and the next time he goes there, it will have sunk to the bottom of the sea. Not to mention the countless subtle changes caused by the movement of the Earth's crust, which will make the world you pass by completely different. After experiencing the heavenly punishment mentioned by Zhu Yan, the mirage it mentioned and the mirage recorded by Dongfang Shuo may not be the same place. It seems that what you are talking about is no secret. Lu Chang'an frowned. I feel insulted. You don't take me seriously at all, and you are still trying to stall me. After saying that, Lu Chang'an ignored Zhu Yan and took out his mobile phone to call Li Hongfang. "Do me a favor, well, I want a clay pot, too, at the riverside where I fed the fish last time." Although he didn't know why Lu Chang'an suddenly sent someone to bring a clay pot, Zhu Yan instinctively sensed the crisis and said quickly, "You humans have too short a lifespan and you have a short temper." "Haven't I not finished speaking yet?" Lu Chang'an smiled. The words "you humans" made Lu Chang'an feel very good. Yes, he is a member of the human race. He deeply agrees with this. Even the alien beasts think that he is a human being. This is what an achievement. He did not cancel the delivery of the clay pots because of this. He was not someone who could easily change his mind with just a few words. Although Empress Nuwa blocked the punishment from heaven at that time, the surrounding sea and land have changed. The waves around the Mirage Sea have even enveloped the flying beasts in the sky. We hid in the cave on the island and stayed there. Then the entire island sank, because the entrance to the cave was closed, and we were safe in the cave, but we couldn't leave, Zhu Hao said faster. This is the alien version of the Doomsday Bunker. In recent thousands of years, humans have built such facilities from time to time. For example, the famous Noah's Ark during the Great Flood in the West was similar, except that it was a ship, and its function was to fight against the doomsday. There is no difference. Generally speaking, the construction of buildings such as doomsday bunkers by humans has reached its peak in recent decades, and the number of buildings built far exceeds the total number of buildings in human history. Lu Chang'an has participated in the construction of some doomsday bunkers, because the functional requirements of the doomsday bunkers built at this time basically include 1. To withstand nuclear explosions. He has witnessed nuclear explosions with his own eyes, and he also wants to see how humans build buildings that can withstand nuclear explosions. Isn't this an experience that everyone is curious about and wants to participate in and play with? He now remembers the locations and route maps of some doomsday bunkers. Some have been lifted and have even become tourist attractions, some are still classified, and some are under maintenance and preparation for when they will be put into use. Because the stakes are so high, the construction of doomsday bunkers will use a lot of resources. Generally speaking, in all countries that have a need to build doomsday bunkers, everyone's bunkers are well built. Sunangzio's underground base at Hunan University was originally similar, but now its protection level has been improved even more, fully meeting the conditions for a certain number of beings to live and survive for a long time in the apocalypse. The island sank to the bottom of the sea, and the cave was completely closed. Although our lives were safe, the cave entrance could not be opened for some reason. We found the elixir left by Nuwa Empress in the cave, and after taking it, we gained a very long life. Lifespan also fell into a deep sleep after Zhu Yan finished speaking. He looked at Lu Chang'an nervously. "That's it?" Lu Chang'an nodded. He already understood what the secret Zhu Yan really didn't want to say directly. Elixir. Anything involving immortality can cause bloodshed and heinous crimes, making the powerful and powerful willing to pay any price to obtain it. Of course, the price will not be their own lives, but they can use the lives of countless people to fill the ravine of desire. Some people can resist the beauty of the country, but they cannot resist the temptation of immortality. Lu Chang'an can also be sure that the existence of the elixir is not only known to the strange beasts who entered the cave during the time of punishment, but relevant news has spread around the world before or after. The island where the alien beasts took refuge, above the Mirage, is most likely Penglai in the mythical era, which is not the same place as the county-level city that everyone is familiar with now. Lu Chang'an remembered one thing. He had known about the legend of the fairy medicine for a long time, but he didn't believe it at first, and he didn't go to verify it himself. When Yingzheng found him, he couldn't get immortality from him, but Lu Chang'an showed Yingzheng the way to immortality and told Yingzheng that he could go to Penglai to find the elixir. Later, Yingzheng sent someone there. Everyone knows the rest of the story. Lu Chang'an just didn't expect that the elixir really existed. Yang Zheng didn't find Penglai just because the elixir had long ago sunk to the bottom of the sea with Penglai and was eaten by a group of strange beasts. Seeing Zhu Yan's nervous look, Lu Chang'an knew that those elixirs might not have been eaten, and some of them were still left. He just didn't know if those elixirs were still on the sunken Penglai island at the bottom of the sea, or were taken away by the alien beasts. Some came out. Lu Chang'an is also a little curious about these elixirs. He does not believe that the latest generation of humans or these recently born creatures can create any elixir of immortality. Most of them are from Tesla's generation of humans. Perhaps it was in the age of myth that someone or a strange beast obtained the scientific and technological achievements of Tesla's ancient civilization and became the famous Nuwa Empress. This Nuwa Empress collided with the meteorite, most likely not with a physical body like Long, but with a mecha or something like that. The mecha exploded after the collision, which is more in line with Zhu Ni's description. The Nuwa Empress burst into flames that filled the sky. This may be the case, but Lu Chang'an is not completely sure. How did you wake up? Just like an alarm clock, after setting it for thousands of years, you woke up, the cave door opened automatically, and you crawled out of the bottom of the sea in one go. Lu Chang'an was actually more curious about this. As for the elixir, Lu Chang'an felt that it was most likely a special medicine prepared by Nuwa Empress for the strange beasts. It was hard to say whether these things would be adaptable to humans. What's more, the vitality of alien beasts is extremely strong and long-lasting. They take those special medicines to stay in a dormant state for such a long time. Humans may not be able to maintain such a long-lasting dormant state after taking them, or they may simply not be able to withstand the power of the medicine after taking them. There may also be people who burp directly. Of course, he would investigate it himself if he had the chance, but that was not his biggest concern right now. Zhu Yan hesitated for a moment and nodded. Lu Chang'an couldn't help but laugh. Please tell the truth, otherwise I will crush you into meat paste, put it in a clay pot, sink it into the river and feed it to the fish. Only then did Zhu Nu understand the fear that had arisen when this ferocious human had just called someone to deliver the clay pot. He quickly said, "We did wake up suddenly. The cave door gathered around us when we woke up. It opened automatically when the time came, and we came out. But when we surfaced, we met a large ship. These people seemed to be searching for us. They were from the current Fuzu kingdom, and the leader was called Fujiwara Majiro. We are really just a group of weak and strange beasts trying to survive in today's world. Most of the things you want to know, he knows better. Are we weak and alien beasts?" This sentence can't help but remind Lu Chang'an of "I'm just a weak queen mother, I don't have much strength, I can't work because I don't have the strength, I can't lift it, move it, or take it." Shangguan Dandan. Lu Chang'an folded his hands on his chest and decided to torture Shangguan Dandan severely when he returned. He also knows that the information that can be mined from Zhu Nang is limited. Even if Zhu Nang is suspected of diverting misfortune, it doesn't matter. After all, what he cares about most is not the things in the mythical era, but the appearance of these strange beasts now. What intentions are hidden behind it? The Fujiwara Mojiro mentioned by Zhu Nian and the Fujiwara Kui whom Gunsha met must be from the same family. He can first bring 2 jars of hot sauce to visit Fujiwara Kui. Thinking of this, Lu Chang'an was ready to let Zhu Yan go. After all, it is not easy for someone to live for so long. God has the virtue of good life, not to mention Lu Chang'an, the boss of heaven, the second boss of earth, and the third boss of him. It is too cruel to casually knead Zhu Ni into meat sauce, and it is not Lu Chang'an's style. By the way, there is some kind of women's health club over there. There are many beasts in there. Do you know what they are going to do? Lu Chang'an thought of this matter. Originally, investigating this matter was his main business tonight. In today's world, for us alien beasts, apart from humanization, even if we stay in remote mountains and wilderness, there are endless troubles and dangers. In addition to integrating into human society, what else can we do? We also have to find out first, of course, this is only temporary. Give us some time, we can perfectly integrate into human society, and it is not difficult to quietly become the upper class of human society. Now working in a women's health club, it's just us the starting point. Zuyan forced a smile and said, I also work there. Well, let's start from being a duck. Lu Chang'an understood. This was similar to him moving bricks on a construction site. It was obvious that he was preparing to live an active and correct life. Just when Zhu Niao wanted to ask if he could be let go, he saw a charming woman walking over carrying 2 clay pots and stared at Zhu Niao in shock. Master, was it the one that screamed when the water monkey hummed it that day? After Li Hongfang looked at the white Zhu Ni for a few times, she ran to Lu Chang'an and said excitedly. Li Hongfang was holding a jar in one hand, and she was inevitably used to swaying her waist and hips to maintain balance when running. Lu Chang'an saw that she was wearing a white trench coat with a black combat uniform underneath, and couldn't help but think of a dish called Han Palace Keng Xiao. During the cooking process of this dish, there were live loaches burrowing around in the tofu, which was very similar to the scene where she was running around just now. No, it looks like a dog, but it's actually more like a fox. Its true identity is Zhu Mo, and it's a male. Lu Chang'an explained. But Zhu Yan seemed to have been greatly insulted. The water monkey is also a strange beast. If it is intimate with the water monkey, it cannot be explained by sucking a cat. The water monkey is so ugly, who would suck a water monkey? It's just that this woman seemed to be attracted by the cruel human in front of her. Zhu Yan endured it and explained in a calm tone, the water monkey is a low-level alien beast. I can only beat it until it screams, and it is impossible for it to use any means forcing me to scream. Li Hongfang was a little disappointed, thinking it was a female, otherwise Brother Lu would definitely let it howl. Brother Lu said that his howling sound was dragon roar, which actually implies that he has no taboos. After all, dragons don't do anything. Let it go. Thinking of this, Li Hongfang couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. The sect owner had no taboos, but he had no interest in her, which made Li Hongfang somewhat concerned. It's not that she has feelings of love for Lu Chang'an. It's not that when she knows that the gap between the two parties is too big, the emotions of love and affection will be suppressed to a certain extent. Li Hongfang still wants to gain some sense of recognition. Being recognized by a man like Lu Chang'an is a great satisfaction in life. It can fully prove that Li Hongfang is a very outstanding and beautiful woman. For example, women like Qin Yinan were favored by Lu Chang'an, and Lu Chang'an also made it clear that there was some gap between Li Hongfang and Qin Yinan. Although Li Hongfang was not convinced, it was a perceptual emotion, and she could still see the gap clearly rationally. The last time she unexpectedly hit Qin Yinan, she only felt a little relieved, which was of no use and could not change the facts. Thinking of this, Li Hongfang couldn't help but touch her butt. Even her biggest advantage was that she was evenly matched with Qin Yinan. Fortunately, the door owner paid special attention to her appearance. I won't kill you today, go back. Lu Chang'an waved his hand, and waited until Zhongqing had completely repaired the underground base before inviting Zhu Yao to be a guest. Today he was so friendly and kind, inviting Zhu Yao to be a guest, let him the odds of being generous enough to keep an appointment are high. Zhu Nu raised his long neck and his hind legs had fully recovered. However, remembering the severe pain from the broken leg just now, his calf muscles still felt a slight tremor. You are very powerful, no less powerful than the strongest human beings back then. However, you seem to be overconfident and do not take us seriously. I am not the strongest among the beasts. Zhu Yan paused. I want to see your strongest display of strength. Want to fight? Li Hongfang waved the 2 clay pots in his hand. Li Hongfang witnessed the water monkey being wiped out easily, so she didn't think the alien beast could be that powerful. To be honest, it was Rasputin who had brought more psychological shadow to her at that time. Rasputin and the strange beast in front of him are both existences that are beyond the understanding of ordinary people, but the strange beast in front of him is definitely far inferior to Rasputin. Li Hongfang is eager to give it a try, and even wants to fight Zhu Ni and try on the combat suit. Strength. Of course, if she was the only one facing Zhu Yan, she would not act rashly. After all, she had no idea about the opponent's strength, but the sect leader was here. As the sect leader's lackey, it was not natural for him to take advantage of the situation and pretend to be powerful. Lu Chang'an is moody, but Li Hongfang has discovered that he can protect his shortcomings. Even if Li Hongfang is ready to provoke the water monkey, she really can't defeat Zhu 11, and Lu Chang'an will definitely take action. Zhu Ni glanced at Li Hongfang, exuding the smell of seductive flesh. It was clear that the most powerful weapon was her body, but it came to provoke Zhu Ni. Naturally, it didn't take her seriously and killed her. I didn't just sit back and watch the human next to me. Secondly, women have been very disgusting since ancient times and I didn't want to touch her. If my strongest strength is shown, this city will be destroyed. I will show you a palm technique that falls from the sky. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and said. Zhu Yan doesn't have that much face. If he wants to show super strength, only Tesla equipped with the Eternal Cabinet can do it. He was willing to perform, and he also had the intention to really shock Zhu Ni. The suppression of Zhu Ni just now only made Zhu Ni feel that he was invincible, but he had not completely shocked Zhu Ni. It didn't even pee, so how could it be said that it was completely frightened? When Lu Sin saw Lu Chang'an, he would often urinate excitedly. It's also possible that Lu Sin's ability to urinate has more to do with Lu Sin being a female dog, and Zhu Xian is a male after all. You're lucky. Li Hongfang lowered his arms and snorted coldly at Zhu Niao. I'm lucky enough to see our sect leader perform a palm technique. This is also the first time for me to see a sect leader perform a palm technique that falls from the sky. Li Hongfang thought of the palm technique used to kill the Fire Cloud Evil God in the movie Fire Cloud Evil God, and estimated that the power of the sect leader was definitely no less than that move. Zhu Yan's face was expressionless. After so many years, his mother was still so disgusting that he had no interest in sucking her. From the moment he saw her master, this mother was exuding the smell of spring. The real name of my palm is Goose Palm. It was created to commemorate the saintess of the sect who could accurately recite Ode to the Goose, by Mao Lake Deer Water, with the horizontal palm moving the clear waves. The legend of the sacred deer appearing in the lake, the mist is thick on the turquoise water, and the scene of swans and deer haunting the lake and the dense forest is full of fairyland and seclusion. The word horizontal palm is the embodiment of the state of this palm technique. One palm divides the lake and the mountains and rivers are broken. After Lu Chang'an finished speaking, his figure disappeared from the spot. Fortunately, neither Zhu Yan nor Li Hongfang had the ability to catch sight of ordinary people. Their eyesight could barely keep up with the faint after-image he left, and the next moment he appeared above the river. The river in the dark night ran across the center of the city, like a giant snake that was winding and flowing. It was being locked by a strong man in the extreme, and he was about to kill him in the next moment. As if he felt threatened, the river surged with the momentum of a rapid torrent. Lu Chang'an jumped into the air and then fell. The strong wind was blowing the hem of his clothes, long sleeves, which were obviously just ordinary clothes. In the eyes of Zhu Ni and Li Hongfang, but it seemed as if two wings covering the sky and the sun were raised behind Lu Chang'an. It was the condensed air current, and the swaying river water slapped both sides of the river, rolling up the water waves like the white scales of a giant snake. Lu Chang'an fell from the sky and landed on the river with a palm. He saw that the entire Xiangjiang River was like a wild snake dancing wildly, with jade drills flying around. This section of the river was completely thrown into the air, and the mud at the bottom of the river and several decayed and dilapidated sunken ships could be vaguely seen. The falling river stirred up huge waves, and the passionate water line slapped on the shore, drenching Zhu Nu and Li Hongfang. But in front of their eyes, the falling river undulated, and the waves rolled forward. The third bridge in the distance seemed to be swallowed up by endless waves. Li Hongfang brought her knees together and dropped the pottery pot to the ground. Her heartbeat was beating like a drum. She held down her sore thighs. She was thankful that she had used a pad today so she wouldn't make a fool of herself. Zhu Niao's legs were thick, and after all, he was not as frightened as Li Hongfang, unable to move. In ancient times, it had witnessed the momentum of those super-powerful beasts that shook the mountains and rivers when they moved. The human in front of it was not weak at all. If it is true as he said, this is not his strongest strength at all. How strong is he? Zhu Yan ran away, and he must quickly notify other strange beasts. When encountering this human being, he must be careful and cautious. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 826. Seeing Zhu Yan's strange foxtail swaying and twisting his huge buttocks with a hard and round feeling to escape, Lu Chang'an didn't want to stop it. It was his purpose to scare it so much that it fled. He fell from the air, rode the waves across half the river, and returned to the shore. Li Hongfang was holding her hands on her thighs and her knees together, her lips slightly parted, and her eyes trembling as she looked at him. What are you doing here? Although Li Hongfang did not take off her pants, it was not impossible because Lu Chang'an remembered that her black combat uniform could be removed at any part. That time in the ancient tomb of the Eastern Han dynasty, Li Hongfang I performed it once for him. The matter of pooping is difficult for many children who grew up in cities to accept and regard it as an ugly and unqualified act. However, in the hearts of many middle-aged and elderly people, it is a kind of sentiment and a memory that binds them to their childhood. And nostalgia. In today's urban environment, urinating everywhere not only reflects extremely poor personal qualities, but more importantly, pollutes the environment. In rural areas in the past, this was not the case. Urine and feces were an important source of farmyard manure, and farmyard manure was related to the prosperity of crop growth. Shitting wild shit will not pollute the environment. The excrement of villagers and domestic animals is just a normal link in the material cycle in the natural environment. The most common and eye-catching type of excrement on Tiantian village road is cow dung, which is as big as a wash basin, followed by pig excrement, and the inconspicuous one is dog excrement. In fact, human excrement is relatively rare, because it is usually hidden in farmers working in groves, behind bushes, in ditches, and in fields will even use the hose they carry with them to dig a hole, pull it out and bury it, which is very environmentally friendly. Seeing Li Hongfang's posture, Lu Chang'an couldn't help but reminisce about rural life, full of memories and feelings. It's just that urban life is, after all, a manifestation of the progress of human civilization, and it is more convenient and comfortable to live in the city. If ordinary people really think that traditional rural life is a symbol of the leisure and poetry of fields, flowers, then they are probably losing their minds. If you have enough conditions to live in the countryside instead of living a rural life, that's another matter. Like Zhu Huntang, if you like a certain village and try to maintain the original appearance and authenticity, you can directly transform the village into a resort. This is another state. This is what Zhongqing told Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang he is gifted in the matter of prodigal. When Lu Chang'an came back from his rural feelings of shitting, Li Hongfang had already stood up straight. No, I haven't eaten too much. Li Hongfang waved his hands quickly, and the look in his eyes finally turned into shining enthusiasm. Brother Lu, you are too strong. Is this the pinnacle of martial arts? Can you break the void at any time? But you don't want to attract the nine heavens' divine thunder, so now you suppress the realm and stay in the human world. You are not young at all. How come you are still such a middle-aged person, thinking wildly all day long? Lu Chang'an waved his hand. Shattering the void is something that cannot be done by humans. The enthusiasm in Li Hongfang's eyes was still there. What kind of man was he? How lucky was he to be his lackey? Li Hongfang was eager to try. always wanting to do something for him to satisfy her urge to sacrifice and dedicate herself to him. Then we want to follow the Zhu and catch them all in one fell swoop, Li Hongfang asked again, always feeling that the sect leader was charging into the battle and he was infinitely satisfied waving the flag and shouting from behind. Or she could play as a forward, charging forward in the face of a strong enemy. The thought of him watching her from behind made Li Hongfang's blood boil. It's not easy for them to survive. Lu Chang'an wanted to get along with them even more. He wanted to let them come to the laboratory as guests and exchange experiences and feelings about non-human creatures in modern society. You don't need to investigate that women's health club. Now, you should focus on opening the store. Don't let Zhou Shuling be too busy. She has to look after the store, she has 2 foodies to raise, she has to open a new store, and she has to gossip about me when she has nothing to do. Li Hongfang didn't change her combat uniform specifically because of Lu Chang'an's summons. She had originally planned to visit the women's health club tonight, but the operation could only be cancelled now. Li Hongfang was a little regretful, and there was no chance for a big fight, but Brother Liu's words can't help but listen. If he didn't listen to Brother Liu, he might give him a small punishment. Thinking of this, Li Hongfang had a faint blush on his face and felt a little warm in his body. Li Hongfang quickly dismissed the random images in his mind. Recently, there were some strange images in his dreams and daily fantasies, which made Li Hongfang feel dizzy sometimes. He always felt that the things he imagined had really happened. Same. Brother Liu, when Zhou Shuling and I went shopping, I found that she didn't know much about dressing up either. We bought the same underwear set. I bought the white one and she bought the black one. Li Hongfang felt good about Zhou Shuling. We will work as partners to manage the rice noodle shop together in the future. They look very pleasing to each other, which can make work a lot more comfortable. The most important thing is that Li Hongfang and Zhou Shuling have one thing in common. They both feel that they are not good at dressing up. They both like to talk about how Qin Yanan is very good at dressing herself up and has a special temperament. Shopping together can bring 2 women closer together, not to mention that Zhou Shuling is also half of Li Hongfang's boss. Li Hongfang feels that the person she really needs to be responsible for is Lu Chang'an, but on the surface she still has to maintain a warm attitude towards Zhou Shuling, her boss. A black and white evil spirit, Lu Chang'an said casually. Black and white are beautiful. Li Hongfang corrected Lu Chang'an's statement, which gave a more romantic feeling. My white will make my hip and chest lines look fuller. She said that she is a bit fat and wearing black should make her look thinner. In fact, our figures almost. Zhou Shuling does look good in black, and she said she wanted to show it to you. Lu Chang'an frowned and looked at Li Hongfang. That's what she said. And she also bought black thigh socks that can be matched with suspenders. Zhou Shuling is actually a very interesting woman. Li Hongfang felt a little guilty, but still nodded with certainty. This action of nodding can make people. I couldn't help but feel that she was telling the truth. Are you delusional? Or do you think Zhou Shuling must have had something to do with me, so it's reasonable for you to make up a story that she said she wanted to wear it for me to see? Lu Chang'an clasped his hands on his chest and stared at Li Hongfang. Ah! Li Hongfang was surprised. Zhou Shuling did not say that, but Li Hongfang felt that Zhou Shuling must have this idea, so she just helped Zhou Shuling to express it. He did not expect that Brother Liu had a blazing gaze, which could be seen. Could it be that Brother Liu didn't say anything to Zhou Shuling? Start. As expected of Brother Liu, even though his nature is like a dragon, he can still sit still and abide by the rule that rabbits do not eat grass near the nest. You must know that there are many troubles in the affairs between men and women. It is more conducive to maintain stable and simple interpersonal relationships if rabbits don't eat grass on the edge of the nest. This is why many companies prohibit romance between colleagues. Brother Liu is still wise and powerful, and will not be easily dominated by desire and lose his mind. Therefore, Brother Liu also keeps a distance from disciples like himself. Even though Li Hongfang is quite confident about his figure, he only looks at it from a distance without being obscene. Play. Li Hongfang had to say with admiration, "Brother Lu is smart and saw through me at a glance, but I think that if our Zhu Fenglai sword sect wants to grow and develop, we first need to expand our manpower, and Zhou Shuling is a very suitable expansion target. I have seen in the novel, a powerful sect will have a person in charge who is responsible for managing the sex industry, and Zhou Shuling can hold such a position." Li Hongfang is still very concerned about the Zhu Fenglai sword section. She is not the kind of person who has no desire for power, wealth, and interests. Her realm is not that high, otherwise, how could she become a tomb robber? A tomb robber now doesn't want to expand his sex power, but instead behaves as stoic and indifferent to fame and fortune. Doesn't that mean his character is ruined? No matter what, Li Hongfang really wanted to assist his sect leader to gain some perspective, but he never thought about replacing him. After all, the sect leader was the core and soul of the Zhu Fenglai sword section. In this regard, Li Hongfang was more. Another excuse was that Lu Chang'an kissed her butt, and the fairy she was going to replace was much higher in level. If the position is responsible for managing the sex industry, it is basically a protector, an elder, etc., and can be regarded as a deputy of the section. Is this something that you, a peripheral disciple during the inspection period, got involved in? Lu Chang'an did not intend to listen to Li Hongfang. His opinion was, "You can help Zhou Shuling open a rice noodle shop first, and I'll see what your talent is." Li Hongfang became excited. It seemed that the sect leader still trusted him. Even though Lu Chang'an finally asked Zhou Shuling to manage the sect's assets, he also wanted Li Hongfang to be Zhou Shuling's deputy. From the fact that Lu Chang'an didn't even pay attention to along the river during the Qingming festival, it can be seen that the hidden assets of Zhu Fenglai sword sect must be as rich as the enemy. In the city at night, when the lights were at their most prosperous, Lu Chang'an looked towards the opposite river bank. There was such a big movement on the Xiangjiang River just now, which alarmed many people. The onlookers were unaware of the danger or did not think that they would be the unlucky ones. Crowds of people gathered together, and the noise could be heard across the Xiangjiang River in the wind. Lu Chang'an didn't care much. Human beings are like this nowadays. If they see something they can't understand, they will automatically classify it as fake news after much thought, and will not take any action to find out the root cause. It's nothing more than a video that circulates on social media for a while, and then fades away after a few days. By the way, if you have nothing to do, help me check the relevant information of Fujiwara Mojiro and Fujiwara Kuai. I don't have any information, just these two names, but they are both from ancient Japanese families and are very powerful. Knowing this will make it easier to investigate. Lu Chang'an found something for Li Hongfang to do. Just check casually. They may be dangerous to a certain extent, you must pay attention to safety first. Yes, Li Hongfang accepted the order. Brother Lu had the qualities of a leader, and the gentle care in his words was warm and sincere, which would unknowingly make his disciples more loyal. Let's go have some midnight snack. Lu Chang'an thought for a while, what should we eat? The hotel has recently been doing outdoor dining activities. The taste is pretty good and there are many types. Li Hongfang suggested that many luxury brand hotels now even set up barbecue stalls outside in order to increase traffic, but they look more high-end. The name is not called a barbecue stall, but called barbecue. The traditional barbecue in the hotel usually costs a few $100 per person, but now it is like a barbecue stall where you can order and eat. The Grand Hyatt Hotel, ranked among the top in Junsha, has done this, not to mention the hotel where Li Hongfang lives. The grade is not that high yet. Lu Chang'an was very impressed with the food and beverages in the hotel where Li Hongfang stayed. When Gao Qunyi hosted a banquet for people from Junsha Road, Lu Chang'an took Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong to attend. The food was pretty good. Lu Chang'an cared about Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong. Dong gained weight too fast and even helped them eat some pork knuckles. Go ahead. It was not far from the hotel. Li Hongfang saw that Lu Chang'an's shoes were wet and suggested that he go to her room to change shoes first. The hotel prepared better indoor slippers for VIP customers. They were not suitable for long-distance walking, but they were dry and comfortable. Li Hongfang didn't even prepare better slippers for herself. She felt very comfortable just wearing the hotel slippers. Lu Chang'an came to Li Hongfang's room and sat down. Li Hongfang first brought him a bottle of orange juice, then asked him to sit down, knelt on the carpet and respectfully helped Lu Chang'an take off his shoes and socks. Inevitably, Li Hongfang touched Lu Chang'an's feet. He saw that the man's foot bones were wide, the instep was solid, the toes felt strong, the heels were plump and steady, and the skin was warm and delicate. Li Hongfang quietly raised his feet. I walked to the cloakroom with my shoes, couldn't help but smell them, then put them in a shoe bag and placed them at the door. After the room attendant on the floor saw it, he would naturally take it to the laundry department to clean and dry the shoes. Lu Chang'an did not wear leather shoes today, so it was relatively simple to deal with them. Li Hongfang's own white trench coat was also soaked with a lot of Xiangjiang water. She was changing clothes in the cloakroom, but the door was not closed tightly. She was relieved that Brother Lu was not the kind of person who would peek in obscenely. If he wanted to, he would just coldly order her to take off her combat clothes and put on a shameful posture for him to enjoy. Li Hongfang wondered if he would do this. Li Hongfang replaced Zhou Shuling. Lu Chang'an drank the orange juice and then went to have barbecue with Li Hongfang. The barbecue is located in the hotel garden. Compared with the barbecue stalls in the streets and alleys, the environment and atmosphere are much better. Square wooden frames are set up in the small garden. Windproof curtains are hung on both sides of the wooden frames. With tables and chairs. Under each set of tables and chairs, there is a hot brazier to dispel the cold. It feels quite good to have a barbecue and copper pot hot pot in such an environment in winter. Lu Chang'an and Li Hongfang sat opposite each other. Li Hongfang wanted a copper pot, but Lu Chang'an let her do whatever she wanted. He didn't really want to eat hot pot, but he could eat some with her. Li Hongfang ordered a copper pot with many side dishes. Some of the side dishes can be used for barbecue or hot pot, but the hotel is more particular about it. Barbecue and hot pot are different cooking methods. Lu Chang'an ordered the barbecue beef, which is skewers. The hot pot ordered by Li Hongfang uses yellow beef that is marinated and wrapped in pickled peppers. Master, it is my honor to have dinner with you, Li Hongfang said after sitting down. Lu Chang'an nodded in agreement. This is different from eating in the school cafeteria. In the school cafeteria, each person holds a plate. But today when we eat hot pot together, two people use chopsticks to pick up food in the same pot without using separate dishes. Chopsticks. Master, you can eat this blueberry yam. It tastes good. The barbecue will be served after a while the hot pot can be prepared immediately. Li Hongfang poured a box of snowflake beef into the pot and recommended snacks to Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an tasted it and found that it was indeed good, but the yam was an iron rod yam, which was crispy and not glutinous enough. The elders all know that yams must be curved to be authentic. They are yams that really grow in the mountains and forests. Iron rod yams grow in straight culture barrels, so that they can only grow straight. Advances in cultivation methods have greatly improved the processing efficiency of yams. In the past, those curved yams could only be scraped with chopsticks. It was a complete torture for people with sensitive skin to handle yams. The real older generation does not have any skin allergies. People born in the 1980s and 1990s must have good living conditions to have this kind of yam allergy experience. Master, does yam have the function of aphrodisiac? Li Hongfang suddenly asked. No, Lu Chang'an frowned. She must have thought of the long and thick shape of the iron rod yam. This person is really, Lu Chang'an didn't know what to say about her. After a while, the roasted yellow beef was served first, and Lu Chang'an tasted it. The chef's skills were very good, but the yellow beef was not freshly slaughtered from the market, but chilled yellow beef, which affected the taste a bit. He was not a picky person and still planned to eat cleanly. Li Hongfang glanced at Lu Chang'an, who was eating barbecue seriously, and turned around to see a man wearing a Chinese double-breasted jacket looking at him with a smile. The man was in his early 40s, tall and not very strong, but his fists looked thick and his fingers were straight and strong. "Xiao Fang, long time no see," the middle-aged man said with that meaningful smile on his face. This kind of smile can often be seen on the faces of mature men. It always gives people the feeling that he has mastered the other party's secrets, handles, or controlled the situation. "Xiao Fang." Lu Chang'an subconsciously took a look at Li Hongfang's hair. The fluffy curls and soft feeling were completely different from the thick braids that people think of when they hear Xiao Fang. Lu Chang'an didn't pay attention to that man. He just talked about Xiao Fang and the big braid. He had to mention Xiao Fang. Based on Lu Chang'an's experience and knowledge, he said with a slight bias that many people who sing and compose folk love songs are basically hooligans. A scumbag. Basically, but not entirely, it's just a matter of family, so don't worry about it. After finishing the scumbag, I will write a song for you, sing it lovingly, and perform it affectionately. It is really interesting. Li Hongfang knew that Lu Chang'an would not interfere with her personal affairs, but she really didn't want to see this man here. Li Hongfang restrained her attitude when facing Lu Chang'an just now, and there was a cold look in her eyes. "It's better not to see you for a long time than never." "What you said is boring." The middle-aged man did not feel dissatisfied, and still had a faint smile on his face. "You also know that my company is engaged in network big data and security systems. In today's world, you just show up in public and I can find you." This was true. Of course Li Hongfang knew this, but she did not originally think that this man named Li Jiama would come to her again, nor did she deliberately avoid his pursuit. This is the case in many industries. After working together once, there will be no intersection in the future. What's more, since Li Hongfang followed Lu Chang'an and became his lackey, he has always felt safe. Many of his recent actions, including his actions on social media, have not been deliberately concealed. Li Hongfang thought for a while, and it was probably because she had been paying attention to the Lushan Longjian incident recently and posted a lot of comments on social media along with selfies that Li Jiama found her. As for why she posted a selfie when she was investigating Lushan Longjian, it's simple. No matter what kind of comments a woman makes, it's natural for her to take a selfie with her. Some people like to take selfies with their parents after their parents have died, and the whole village would dance at a disco on their grave. Li Hongfang has no need to hide his whereabouts recently, so naturally he will not deliberately hide or be cautious. "Why are you looking for me? If you use all possible means, our cooperation has ended a long time ago." Li Hongfang and Li Jiama have no grudges. There were no relatives or friends of Li Jiama in the team that died last time. In the previous cooperation with Li Jiama, there were no disputes. Li Jiama provided some information. Based on this information, Li Hongfang and her team finally found a location for excavation with the financial support of Li Jiama. Despite some unpleasantness, there was generally no subsequent entanglement with Li Jiama. Logically speaking, they should part ways and cut off contact. However, Li Jiama still contacted Li Hongfang from time to time, and even sent a message suddenly while Li Hongfang was working. He said he knew what Li Hongfang was doing recently. Li Jiama did not leak any relevant information about Li Hongfang's work because he knew it, causing trouble for Li Hongfang. However, in this industry, it is very uncomfortable for people in this industry to have their whereabouts completely controlled by the other party. While Li Hongfang was following Sun Nangxiu, Li Jiama did not contact Li Hongfang again. It was obviously because of Sun Nangxiu's relationship. If someone like Li Jiama investigated the people around Sun Nangxiu, he would naturally be regarded as a threat by the organization responsible for Sun Nangxiu's safety. either preventing his investigation, or causing Li Jiama to retreat in spite of the threat. Unexpectedly, Sunangxiu left Juncha, and Li Jiama came to visit again. Fortunately, Li Hongfang had become Lu Chang'an's lackey. She felt that she had a backer and did not take Li Jiama seriously, so Li Hongfang finished speaking and let him go. A piece of mutton was blanched and handed to Lu Chang'an. Li Jiama then took a look at the young man next to him. He looked like a quiet young man. He seemed to only know how to eat. However, upon closer inspection, there was a sense of calmness in his eyes. He belonged to the kind of young man who could blend in with the young people and spend time as an adult. Not someone who is out of place. What made Li Jiama a little concerned was that Li Hongfang actually picked up food for this young man. It was not the feeling between friends, but more like a small-eyed look to please. Especially after Li Hongfang finished picking up the food, he would look at this young man. After he showed some appreciation after eating, Li Hongfang turned away. Li Jiama couldn't help but think that if she were not here, she would probably not care about so many reservations, and even smile because of this young man's appreciation. It seems that Li Hongfang stayed in Juncha for a long time because of this young man. It's normal for Li Hongfang to have a pretty boy. What people like Li Hongfang with her experience and professional background like most is this pure and harmless feeling. Being away from her complicated and dangerous circle allows her to live and love like an ordinary person. As for Li Hongfang's small eyebrows and small eyes, there is nothing strange. In a relationship between a man and a woman, one party is particularly humble and feels that he is not worthy of the other party, so he is always cautious to please. This is very normal. This kind of humble asking for love and arrogant implementation of love when two parties get along sometimes has nothing to do with the economic, social, and ability status of both parties. Many rich women with high social status often find a good-for-nothing man. This man can even do whatever he wants to her and get whatever she wants. This is also a common situation. Li Jiama has seen a lot of this. Li Hongfang is probably in the same situation. It's normal for a female tomb robber to feel inferior in her heart when facing those sunny and handsome boys in the ivory tower. It's good to be young, and it's good to be handsome. Li Jiama lamented that many girls are attracted by the temperament of mature men, but some women, especially those mature women, can't restrain their attraction to young men. The body's strong hormonal desire prefers these younger ones. I have a new project that I want to work with you on. Li Jiama smiled and said to Li Hongfang. Li Hongfang had a pretty boy. This made him a little uncomfortable, but it didn't matter. Just like there is a little stain on a delicious cake, if you don't dislike it, if you remove the stain, the cake will still taste very good. A woman like Li Hongfang is not suitable to be a real wife, but which man doesn't want to have such a dangerous and charming one? Where is the lover? In other words, at Li Jiama's age, his aesthetic appreciation of women has naturally shifted to women's buttocks. At this point, Li Hongfang is enough to stand out from other women. She is so able to hit Li Jiama's sexual desires. Not interested, Li Hongfang refused without thinking. Ever since she got the battle suit and experienced the charm of technology beyond the times, her sense of satisfaction and accomplishment when getting money has dropped significantly. Li Hongfang's current goal is to become a senior and authoritative collector of Song Dynasty paintings, and she is not that interested in digging graves. The most important thing is that the last time she and Lu Chang'an visited the Eastern Han Dynasty tomb again, it was a terrifying experience that she would never forget. But it was still very exciting and satisfying afterwards, especially when the door owner asked her to show her farts. No, especially when she witnessed a living coffin, which was almost the pinnacle experience in the world of tomb robbing. The cooperation project Li Jiama mentioned was nothing more than digging graves. Li Hongfang was not very interested. What was a little strange to her was that Li Jiama controlled many internet technology companies and was not short of money. Li Hongfang did not seem to be interested in collecting cultural relics. I don't know what he wants to do by being deeply involved in this kind of shady circle all year round. You will be interested. Li Jiama had expected Li Hongfang's attitude, and did not expect that he would receive a warm welcome as soon as he came to her. Li Jiama could clearly see Li Hongfang's attitude towards him, and would not fantasize about it. This was a common mistake that young men made when chasing the opposite sex. They always helped the other party for their words and actions that were obviously disgusting to him. Find many reasons to comfort yourself. One very important thing is that the young man next to Li Hongfang may not know anything about Li Hongfang's past. Otherwise, Li Hongfang would have tried to send this young man away as soon as he saw Li Jiama, or he signaled Li Jiama to pay attention to what he said, but Li Hongfang didn't. Li Hongfang didn't say anything. If he wasn't interested, he just wasn't interested. Let's eat hot pot first. It's freezing out here, so a copper pot is really nice. Li Jiama called the waiter, a set of bowls and chopsticks, thank you. The waiter brought the bowls and chopsticks and asked if there was anything else he wanted. Li Jiama said thank you again and then picked up the chopsticks. The table in front of him was really big, with enough food for at least 4 or 5 people. I don't know what the two of them were doing with a full table. Wait a minute. Just when Li Jiama was about to put his chopsticks into the hot pot, Lu Chang'an picked up the unused serving chopsticks and blocked Li Jiama's chopsticks. Huh, Li Jiama frowned slightly. Don't take off your chopsticks. There's my saliva in the pot. Even though it's very subtle, you still don't take off your chopsticks. Lu Chang'an shook his head. Li Jiama smiled, this young man is quite interesting, but the copper pots here are relatively large, enough for a large table of people, so there is no need to add another copper hot pot. So Li Jiama said, everyone, it's lively when we eat together, it's not particular, it's casual. I'm particular about it. Lu Chang'an put down his chopsticks and didn't stop him anymore. Anyone who could put down his chopsticks after he said that is not an ordinary person. If I don't let you eat, then don't eat. Li Jiama's face was as hot as the edge of a copper pot. He had rarely encountered someone so rude to him, not to mention his status, even among ordinary people, people who would be so rude were extremely rare. Rare. He glanced at Li Hongfang and asked himself that he and Li Hongfang were not close, but they were acquaintances. She didn't care that her pretty boy was so presumptuous. Do you want me to prepare a clay pot? Li Hongfang asked Lu Chang'an in a low voice. Lu Chang'an smiled. As expected of Li Hongfang, he was not so cruel. He just came uninvited and asked for more chopsticks without asking the host. It was just a bit rude. Li Hongfang understood and snorted coldly, Li Jiama, if nothing happens, just leave. Today is your lucky day. Li Jiama patted down his chopsticks. He didn't expect that Li Hongfang would turn against her to such an extent. This was something he didn't expect at all. He stood up and said expressionlessly, I will come find you again. After saying that, Li Jiama didn't care about Li Hongfang's reaction and left without looking back. Li Jiama is no longer young and vigorous. It is not his style to give up when someone scorns him. What's more, he came in person, so why would he just go home? It's probably because this young man is here today. Li Hongfang refuses to let him go, so it's hard to talk. Li Jiama has full confidence in letting Li Hongfang come out again. Hai Hanyo's second tomb, who can resist this temptation? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 827. Li Jiama left, but Lu Chang'an's mood for hot pot was not affected and he continued to eat. Li Hongfang breathed a sigh of relief when she saw that Lu Chang'an was not in such a bad mood that he even stopped eating hot pot, and prepared to continue serving the owner, picking up and rinsing the dishes. The hot pot on a cold night, the hot copper hot pot, The blazing charcoal fire, such a beautiful scene. Li Hongfang didn't want to be ruined by Li Jiama. Eat something for yourself, I'll eat the barbecue first. The waiter brought a freshly roasted nudibranch. Lu Chang'an motioned to Li Hongfang to eat the hot pot by himself, while saying, "Do you know in which era the earliest copper hot pot appeared?" Li Hongfang is a history-related major after all. I still know a little bit about this kind of historical knowledge. I guess there may have been similar eating methods as early as the Bronze Age. But if there is any physical evidence, there was a sea in the Western Han Dynasty a few years ago. The copper hot pot unearthed from the tomb of the Marquis is the oldest object dating back to this era. Lu Chang'an smiled and said that Hai Han Ho Lu he was the most professional when it came to eating hot pot. The copper hot pot unearthed from the tomb of Marquis Hai Han is no longer much different from the current charcoal-burning copper hot pot. During the Three Kingdoms period, there were divided copper hot pots, and each frame had different seasonings. The most professional copper hot pot enthusiast is Lu He, and the biggest hot pot eater is Jia. Jia held a hot pot banquet and used more than 1,500 hot pots, including silver hot pot. In fact, the data of Jia is nothing now. Although some hot pot cities are not able to provide more than 1,500 hot pots at a time, they receive many more hot pot eaters every day than can attend the Jia hot pot banquet. It is common for large hot pot restaurants in hot pot provinces to receive tens of thousands of customers a day, which is unachievable in an era of low productivity. More and more people can eat hot pot conveniently, which is also a reflection of the progress of the times. Eating hot pot reflects the development of productivity and material civilization. When we invented the copper hot pot, other regions at the same time were basically still in the stage of eating raw meat and drinking blood. Lu Chang'an finished eating the nudibranch and began to blanch the cabbage stalks. By the way, he asked, who is this Li Jiama? Don't always think about killing people casually, especially when eating hot pot. You can think about it at other times. I know, Li Hongfang replied energetically, and recalled Li Jiama carefully. I suspect that he is not interested in archaeology, cultural relics, or historical research. He has been looking for some treasure, like the partridge whistle has been looking for Muchen bead. Lu Chang'an is also an expert. When reading tomb robbing novels, I feel very immersed in the stories in them. In fact, the real life of tomb robbing is not as exciting as in novels, and there are not so many twists and turns, but novels are novels after all. This is what makes it interesting to write. Documentary literature is generally not as popular as novels. It's a pity that tomb robbing novels are not so popular now. They have finally returned to the niche market. Many novels occasionally include copies of tomb robbing, which is very interesting. In fact, the content related to archaeology and combined with the new media writing style is very interesting. There is a market. In a progressive country, progress is being made in all aspects. Only when people keep learning and improving can they avoid being eliminated. Just like some authors who only write about ambiguous relationships between men and women will most likely be eliminated and then have to open some barbecue stalls, breakfast shop, rice noodle shop and the like. Li Jiama, I feel like the kind of ambitious capitalist who will get into trouble sooner or later, Li Hongfang said with certainty. People like Li Jiama, after gaining wealth, social status, and influence, often think highly of themselves. Once a person drifts away, something will happen sooner or later. It depends on what kind of ambition you have. Lu Chang'an pointed to the hot pot without commenting. The coriander you put in is all cooked. After finishing the hot pot, Lu Chang'an took advantage of the night breeze to dissipate the heat in his body. This is a healthy heat dissipation, which is completely different from the heat dissipation required after taking wushizhen, which became popular during the Han and Wei dynasties. Walking to the east of Hedong, the heat on his body has almost dissipated, and his body is cool. Lu Chang'an looked at the pedestrians on the street, and there were signs of people rushing to the river. He couldn't help feeling that people like to watch the excitement and spiritual civilization. It doesn't matter that the construction and entertainment industries are booming. In the past, people had fewer ways of entertainment, and not much stimulating information. It was understandable that they liked to watch the excitement. But now, in this era where you can kill time by just opening an app with your mobile phone, people still can't refuse to watch the excitement. The sense of anticipation of wanting to witness unknown events. People coming and going are still discussing the sudden rise and fall of the Xiangjiang River today. Lu Chang'an decided to go see the excitement and squeezed into the crowd. However, a young woman with a child moved around, preventing Lu Chang'an from getting closer to the river bank. Lu Chang'an picked up the child and rushed out. The young woman hurriedly chased after him, but before she could say the words "rob the child," Lu Chang'an had already put the child down. "What should I do if a stampede occurs when I bring my children to watch the fun?" Lu Chang'an righteously condemned. The young woman was stunned for a moment, but Lu Chang'an had already turned around and successfully squeezed into the crowd to watch the fun. Occupying the nearest position on the river bank are a few middle-aged and elderly men, the kind of idle men who can be found everywhere, but who have nothing to do with him. As the first people to discover and witness the strange phenomena in the Xiangjiang River, they obviously have an authoritative temperament. They are being interviewed by media reporters, and their words are full of seriousness and caution. "I witnessed with my own eyes a white dragon swimming in the Xiangjiang River. That guy was so big and had the momentum to cross the river," the middle-aged man chewing betel nuts said with confidence. "This is the White Dragon King, originally, our Xiangjiang River. It's just that the Dragon King cannot appear in the Yangtze River. This White Dragon King most likely came from Dongting Lake. In recent decades, the water area of Dongting Lake has been reduced a lot due to the encirclement of the lake. The White Dragon King is here to warn the world today. We must protect the water environment, otherwise it will bring disaster." The media reporter who turned on the recording function of his mobile phone and used it as an interview microphone smiled. Such superstitious statements are often seen among octogenarians and middle-aged people who have accepted feudal superstitious ideas before the founding of the People's Republic of China. Most of the people who speak like this are from the literacy movement. A blind spot, the kind of person who hasn't even finished elementary school. But he was able to combine it with current events and bring up the environmental crisis of Dongting Lake, which left people speechless. "What you say is unscientific. What about the White Dragon King? I was here just now, but I didn't see any Dragon King." A white-haired old man wearing a jacket smiled and shook his head. "This is the hub project of the East Subway Station. The high mounds of soil cause geological displacement and a series of concurrent phenomena. The high mounds of soil continue to pile up, and the gravity of the mounds presses downwards, generating pressure. The pressure spreads to the river, causing the soil layer below to shift. The soil on the east side, the layer is a tight soil layer, and the high mounds to the east have broken in several places. There is nothing in the river that can resist this force. The pressure pushes the silt in the river and impacts the water surface, eventually causing a collapse-like pushing force. Let the river suddenly surge. Old gentleman, listening to what you are saying, you should be an expert in water conservancy and geography, right?" the media reporter said with admiration. Retired. When people see this phenomenon, don't listen to the wind or rain, causing rumors to spread. All seemingly unscientific phenomena can be explained scientifically." The old man nodded. When Lu Chang'an heard this, he applauded with admiration. His sincere enthusiasm made the onlookers swell as well. The old man smiled and nodded to those around him, and continued to be interviewed by media reporters. "I don't think everything can be explained by science." The middle-aged man chewing betel nut disagreed with the old man's statement. They didn't see the White Dragon King flying out of the river and turning into a human being and slapping the river angrily. When Lu Chang'an heard the middle-aged man's words, he couldn't help but turn his head and look at him. He looked familiar. Realizing that Lu Chang'an seemed to be attracted by his words, the middle-aged man immediately continued, "Really, can I just talk nonsense? At that time, a child was looking at the scenery with the coin-operated telescope. He left after a few glances. I also leaned over to take a look. By coincidence, I happened to see the White Dragon King transforming into a human being. Is the White Dragon King a tall, handsome man like me? Lu Chang'an asked with great interest. Almost, almost. You can't see the face clearly with the telescope, but the White Dragon King must be handsome in human form. Hey, I see you look familiar. The middle-aged man looked at Lu Chang'an. I am Lu Chang'an, and I have moved bricks on your construction site, Lu Chang'an said with a smile. This middle-aged man was really Fan Jian, the construction site manager Lu Chang'an met after he jumped from the roof of Building 1 of Bailong Center last year. Fan Jian suddenly remembered that there were countless young people working under him, but this one named Lu Chang'an was definitely the one who impressed him the most besides acquaintances. Fan Jianyu remembers the way the female secretary who came to see Lu Chang'an turned around and twisted her waist and hips. At that time, Fan Jian was chewing betel nut, and he felt that the old betel nut that had no special taste had suddenly stimulated his mouth. There was a lot of saliva in it. Have you reached the pinnacle of your life? Fan Jian said with a smile. Although the young man in front of him did not seem to have changed much from that time. He was not wearing a famous brand and accompanying a supercar. However, Fan Jian later inquired and found out that the female secretary was, not to put it simply, he is a high-ranking person among the company's top-level officials. His name is Secretary, but he is actually his favorite person. Lu Chang'an understood Fan Jian's thoughts and shook his head with regret. The relationship with Secretary Zhong who came to me was not good at first. Later, I had a few barbecues with her, and now we have a good relationship. But her boss, Zhu, miss, I beat her. Fan Jian was shocked. His company was the contractor of Bailong Center. It was actually a construction company under Baojun Group. After listening to the company's gossip, he also knew that the person with the highest status in Juncha from Baojun Group was now Miss Zhu. Fan Jiandu was trembling a little, so he quickly took out a betel nut, handed one to Lu Chang'an as usual, and tore another one to chew. Why did you beat the eldest lady? Fan Jian chewed a few mouthfuls of betel nut and asked quickly after calming down a little. She's so annoying. Lu Chang'an was also a little helpless, he was not so angry. Which father, which elder would beat up a junior casually? Just like Zhou Dongdong, Lu Chang'an also pats her butt, which has nothing to do with beating. She is naughty and mischievous, and she can't do it at all. She can only watch Zhou Shuling beat the child for fun, and she is determined to do it herself. Unstoppable. Lu Chang'an was really cruel to Zhu Huntang, which is enough to show how irritating this fairy sheep is. No, it is irritating. You can't figure it out. Isn't it normal for the eldest lady to have a bit of a temper? I see that you are such a handsome guy. After you deal with her, you will be the one in that building. Fan Jian turned around and pointed at the treasure behind him that was stuck in the clouds. Building number 1 of Long Center. I couldn't help but sigh with regret. Lu Chang'an returned the betel nut that Fan Jian just handed him. It's not like I don't have a house myself, so why would I need a building? By the way, you haven't lost your job, have you? He has a good relationship with Zhongqing now, but for a while, Zhongqing always suspected that he was a refugee who was working with the old bastard, and might even dislike Fan Jian. It's not that Zhongqing will target Fan Jian, it's just that Zhongqing is the target of many people's comments, and it's not known that there are people underneath who are meddling in other people's business. This is often the case, and big shots may not take the unintentional offending of others to heart. Go up, but of course there are people down below who want to torment you. No. Not lost. Fan Jian thought for a while, shook his head with a wry smile. I didn't know what happened until I saw you today. It turns out that I was suspended for a while, and then reinstated, and I was given 2 level. I made some inquiries and found out that it was related to Secretary Zhong. I was probably suspended because your relationship with her was not good at the beginning, and I was reinstated because your relationship with Secretary Zhong became good. Actually, it has nothing to do with you. After hearing what Fan Jian said, Lu Chang'an took out his mobile phone and looked at it. There was a Lantern Festival blessing text message from Zhongqing. Fan Jian saw Zhongqing's name on Lu Chang'an's phone. He really had a good relationship with Secretary Zhong. If he could invite Secretary Zhong to have a meal through Lu Chang'an, wouldn't he? Forget it, Fan Jian thought about it, it would be too troublesome. Now, the relationship doesn't seem to be that high. Lu Chang'an usually neither reads nor replies to these blessing messages. He had previously replied to Zhongqing, read. Send a selfie to prove that we have a good relationship. Lu Chang'an replied to Zhongqing with a smile. What are you doing? It's not like I don't believe it. People send you blessing messages and you reply with this. It's so interesting for a young man. Lu Chang'an did not avoid Fan Jian. Fan Jian saw the message at a glance and found it a bit funny. Although Lu Chang'an's reply to the blessing message was a bit strange, Zhongqing still sent it quickly. Lu Chang'an's strange behavior seemed normal in Zhongqing's eyes. If he responded to a blessing message seriously, Zhongqing would be suspicious. His mobile phone was in Zhou Shuling's hands, and he asked Zhou Shuling to reply to other people's messages in a unified manner. Zhou Shuling is someone who is willing to do this kind of thing. She will worry about Lu Chang'an offending others and proactively help him reply seriously. Zhongqing understands this. The message was received quickly. Lu Chang'an glanced at it and turned off the screen quickly. Fan Jian only saw a photo, but did not see it clearly. It was Lu Chang'an's reaction that made Fan Jian chuckle. It turned out that he did not reach the top of his life through Miss Zhu, but found another way. Come to think of it, Miss Zhu is still a little girl, and Secretary Zhong is really a beauty in the world. Who can resist that kind of stunning charm? After all, Lu Chang'an is a hot-blooded young man. He may not be interested in catering to that kind of awkward and pretentious young lady. Isn't it good for a mature woman who knows both coldness and hotness? Actually, it's just a photo of her wearing pajamas. It feels a little more private, which is okay, but I'm not sure if she wants to be seen by others, Lu Chang'an said. I understand. Fan Jian started to eat betel nuts again, feeling that his body was warm and a little ready to move. He had to go to a water bath and spa today. It is very normal for young people nowadays to post those selfies. Fan Jian usually likes to take selfies while shopping. Section. The two people were chatting when two people with lights and video machines came over and introduced them. It turned out that they were the up-hosts of a website that specializes in legends of monsters. Uncle, we just heard someone over there saying that you saw the White Dragon King with your own eyes. Yeah, some people say it's driven by silt. Do you really think everything can be explained scientifically? Science is so powerful, why don't you go to the sun and have a look? Let me tell you, the White Dragon King I saw is the same as what I heard about when I was a child. Life was the same. My grandma said that when the educated youth went to the countryside, there was an educated youth among them, the White Dragon King. There was a drought in the village, so the White Dragon King brought water from the reservoir in the neighboring township and filled the reservoir in our township. My grandma said, the White Dragon King is also a very tall young man, very handsome. So, you and the White Dragon King are still very close, right? Of course, that's why I'm feeling more excited now, and I take responsibility for what I said. Lu Chang'an stood aside and watched for a while, but did not actively participate. After all, he only looked like the White Dragon King, but he was not the real White Dragon King. The White Dragon King only exists in legends, and Lu Chang'an is a 19-year-old college student. There is no connection between the two. Zhongqing called, and Lu Chang'an walked away while answering the phone. Why do you want to take a selfie of me all of a sudden? Zhongqing was a little surprised. Although the things Lu Chang'an did were often unconstrained, and it would be too tiring to think about them carefully, Zhongqing still couldn't help but want to know the reason when it concerned himself. "Oh, I met Fan Jian." "Who is Fan Jian?" Zhongqing thought about it carefully and had some impression of the name, but it seemed to be a character in a TV series he watched. Thinking about it again, there seemed to be a Nonggang businessman with the same name. Lu Chang'an should do not recognize. "You got my contact information from him at the beginning. When I met him today, he asked me if I had reached the peak of my life. I said that I offended Miss Zuda, but I have a good relationship with you," Lu Chang'an explained. In fact, he didn't look at Zhongqing's photo carefully, but he took the trouble to explain so much. Zhongqing's clear and melodious laughter came, and Lu Chang'an said again, "You are not young anymore. Hurry up and give me a chance to let others follow you to the top of your life." Zhongqing's laughter stopped. She was really nosy. Is she too young? Isn't it normal for working women to marry after they are 30? Highly paid women in their 20s either don't have the world and energy, or are not allowed to do so, especially those who work as assistants and secretaries. It is normal for them to remain single throughout their lives for various reasons. Lu Chang'an, you should know that with people like you around, your horizons will be higher when you find a boyfriend, Zhongqing replied lazily, and then hung up the phone. Lu Chang'an looked at his phone and made sure that he had been hung up by Zhongqing. He agreed with Zhongqing's words. There was no problem. An excellent person could not only make the people who became his friends better, but also improve their horizons, temperament, mind, and even aesthetics. This is an ability that a good person will inevitably have. If you cannot let your friends grow up with you, and you just have a feeling that a tree is more beautiful than a tree, it will easily lead to a situation where the tree will be destroyed by the wind. Feel. But if you let your friends grow up together, you will grow into a forest together, and you can carry the wind together, and you will definitely achieve great things. Lu Chang'an was such an outstanding person. He nodded to show that he was satisfied with himself. After Zhongqing hung up the phone, he touched his cheek and regretted it. What he said just now was a bit too impulsive. It was basically no different from a confession. If he were a normal person, what he said would seem to be no different from a confession, but that was not necessarily the case for Lu Chang'an. Thinking of this, Zhongqing breathed a sigh of relief. She didn't really want to express anything to Lu Chang'an. From the moment she changed her attitude and felt Lu Chang'an's excellence and charm, Zhongqing never thought about having anything happen to Lu Chang'an. Because she knew that Lu Chang'an had a girlfriend, and she also knew that there was a woman whose name Zhongqing would not reveal who was eyeing Lu Chang'an, and that there was a stunning beauty like Qinyanan who was acting as a backup. As for his little cousin Bai Hui, Zhongqing felt pity for her, but there really was nothing she could do. But when a woman is attracted to a man like Lu Chang'an, sometimes she can't help but be impulsive, have some outrageous thoughts, do some messy things, and say some outrageous things. Is it normal? Is there anyone who can't understand? Zhongqing looked at the selfie he just took. It was a normal photo. He was just wearing pajamas, which were a bit skimpy. The pajamas were V-necked, so they showed a landscape of snow-white mountains and valleys, and nothing was exposed. After looking at his own photos, Zhongqing sent a message to Bai Hui, "Do you often send selfies to Lu Chang'an?" After sending this message, Zhongqing didn't read Bai Hui's reply, because she didn't want to know the answer, but to give Bai Hui some inspiration. He adjusted the frame of his glasses. The diamond chain hanging from the frame was cold. Zhongqing ordered the curtains to be opened. The light of the cross lamp became brighter. Zhongqing picked up the pen and book and continued to improve himself. He truly began to get in touch with the third wife. Only when I personally manage the field do I realize how shallow and ignorant I am. That night, everyone was doing their own things, and it just passed. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xia Hua. Chapter 828. The bright sky outside the window was still a gray morning. As soon as Lu Chang'an opened his eyes, he saw Zhou Dongdong sitting at the end of the bed, with two round paws rummaging through her small skull bag. Lu Chang'an pulled a pillow for cushioning, checked the messages on his phone, and clicked on Zhongqing's selfie. In the morning, I wanted to look at photos of beautiful women. Lu Chang'an had a lot of Nuan's photos on his phone and had seen them all. Although he never got tired of them, he could also take a look at other people's photos. After all, it's just to look at the photos, not to change the beauty in my arms when I wake up in the morning. Zongqing's skin in the photo is fair and delicate. Although there are beauty elements in it, there is no doubt that Zhongqing is a beauty with jade-skinned skin. Her delicate collarbones reveal her charm and gentle femininity. She is lazy and lazy. Lying on her back on the sofa, she raised the selfie stick with one hand and tried her best to capture her slender waist and slender legs into the lens. These pajamas were a bit too see-through. Lu Chang'an decided to ask Zhongqing where he bought them. He was going to buy one for Nuan, a set. The ones inside were not bad. After turning off Zongqing's photo, Lu Chang'an was surprised to find that Bai Hui had actually sent some photos to himself. It turned out that she was planning to post to a circle of friends, but she couldn't decide which photos to use. Based on her trust in Lu Chang'an's aesthetics, this was normal. The reason is that I want Lu Chang'an to give me some advice. Lu Chang'an looked at it and felt that the photos numbered 1, 3, and 8 looked better to him. The photo numbered 1 was taken from an angle with the phone placed on the table. It was rare that the fat face and eyes were not photographed. The chin of a girl like Bai Hui is usually fatal when photographed from this angle. After careful review, Lu Chang'an finally felt that the set of photos of Bai Hui focused on one theme: vulgarity. At first glance, your eyes are filled with that and your mind is filled with that. What's so good about it? Lu Chang'an remembered that Bai Hui had recently used her swollen position to physically attack him to achieve mental attacks. Sure enough, her swollen position also made her heart too inflated. Lu Chang'an finally clicked on the message sent by Nuan, and as expected, it also included a selfie, which made people feel energetic and heroic just looking at it. After chatting with Nuan about the start of school today, and the dense leaves of the golden willow she saw while running, and how Professor Lu went to bed without blow-drying her hair last night and looked like a crazy woman in the morning, Lu Chang'an put down her phone and prepared to get up. "What are you doing?" Lu Chang'an said to Zhou Dongdong, who had been quietly flipping through his small skull bag. "Where is my homework book?" Zhou Dongdong grabbed his hair and wondered. He searched all morning and couldn't find it. "You burned it," Lu Chang'an reminded her. Zhou Dongdong opened his mouth, raised his head and thought for a while, then looked down at his small skull bag and fiddled with it a few times. Could he really burn his homework? Am I really a child who doesn't like studying so much that he even burns his homework books? Go and look under the electric heating table. Lu Chang'an stopped teasing her. When Zhou Dongdong started to light the fire, it was normal to start with his own homework book, but he would not burn the homework book where he wrote his winter vacation homework. Zhou Dongdong quickly put on his small skull bag and ran to the living room. He bent down and rushed under the electric heating table to rummage around. Because he usually likes to sit there and watch TV, Zhou Dongdong put a lot of things there. As for why Zhou Dongdong sat on Lu Chang'an's bed and rummaged through his skull bag, of course it was because Zhou Dongdong had discovered that although brother Chang'an was easily beaten around him, he could often eat delicious food, and there were many things about brother Chang'an. Now, we can help Zhou Dongdong solve the problem smoothly. Zhou Dongdong quickly found the winter vacation homework book, which proved this point again. Sure enough, Zhou Dongdong's children must be together with brother Chang'an forever, so that Zhou Dongdong's children can be happy. It's unimaginable what kind of beating Zhou Dongdong will suffer if her mother discovers that her winter vacation homework book is missing before going to school. When my mother hits her children, she always makes them scream, unlike brother Chang'an who mainly bullies them. Zhou Dongdong put his winter vacation homework books in his school bag and went to see his mother in a big way. There was no need to hide in brother Chang'an's bedroom. Lu Chang'an also got up and walked to the living room. He saw something strange about the mouse. He picked it up and took a look. Shang Guandandan put the charging cable on the bottom of the mouse again. There was clearly a charging hole there. This also reminded Lu Chang'an that he was going to torture Shang Guandandan, so after washing his face and brushing his teeth, he went downstairs with high spirits. Dealing with Shang Guandandan was not an easy task. Even he felt that there was some challenge and he had to let him go. Your energy and spirit are at their best. Lu Chang'an seemed to be the last one to get up today, and Shang Guandandan was already sitting downstairs boiling water. Although she could drink champagne water every day, Shang Guandandan did not neglect her effervescent tablets. She would boil a little less water in the morning and use the effervescent tablets to drink. After all, most of the morning was spent playing cards. It would be very sad if someone else easily wins away the money that the Queen Mother has saved so hard after drinking champagne. Today, Shang Guandandan wore a red short cotton padded jacket with a white collar and sleeves, a row of finely crafted buttons on the chest, and a big hood on the back. She covered her hair, it's put in a hood, and coupled with a pink brocade horseface skirt, it looks very festive, just like those dolls in the New Year MV congratulating the New Year. Do. Shang Guandandan imitated the sound of the kettle when the water was boiling, urging the kettle to boil the water quickly. Queen Mother Lu Chang'an greeted her. Shang Guandandan rarely heard Lu Chang'an address her with such respect so early in the morning, so he was a little wary, holding the thermos in his arms and touching it. I have a lot of things to do today. I might have to play cards in the morning. Xiao Tang said she wanted to come and play with me. I might let her watch me play cards and learn the skills of playing cards at the same time. Yaya said she bought it for me. Some new clothes were sent over for me to try on. And the TV series I want to watch starts today. Shang Guandandan is very busy. I hope he has some tricks that he can use quickly, and there are more. You have to teach me how to ride an electric pony carriage, did he? Lu Chang'an understood. Today is another day when the Queen Mother has nothing to do. Seeing that she is always so idle and living a life similar to Lu Chang'an at a young age, people can't help but want to send her out to transform into an active and healthy working people. You see, your hair is messed up. Let me comb it for you, Lu Chang'an said. Shang Guandandan tilted his head and hugged the thermos bottle tighter. Lu Chang'an walked behind Shang Guandandan and looked at her long hair, which looked like it had been cut in the night. It was dark and thick, slightly curly, and coiled in her hood. He stretched out his hand and retracted it. This was an instinctive test of unknown mysterious creatures. He was not afraid of anything. Lu Chang'an was not afraid of anything. He immediately grabbed her hair without caring, and then found that there was a comb, 2 hair bands, and a hairband in her hood. Only Maybelline lipstick. Lu Chang'an picked up the comb and combed her hair. In fact, Shang Guandandan's hair was extremely smooth, with no knots at all. The comb was only used to separate the hair. Lu Chang'an combed it and said to Shang Guandandan, "How about I comb you a double ponytail? With such long hair, it would be a pity not to have a double ponytail." Shang Guandandan nodded. She was not paralyzed by his sudden filial piety. The so-called courtesy for nothing was either adultery or theft. Her son suddenly became filial, either because he was beaten outside or because he wanted to breastfeed. In the field of washing, cutting and blow-drying, Lu Chang'an used to be an expert, but he was not good at the various methods of tossing hair that are now popular. It was very simple to comb out a double ponytail, and it was done quickly for her, and then putting on the hairband, he went upstairs and rummaged around to find Zhou Dongdong's little airplane hair accessory clipped on top. After doing all this, Lu Chang'an nodded with satisfaction. Because his whole cheek was exposed, he felt cuter and more girlish, which reminded people of Taiping, who was full of aura when he first appeared in Ci of Daming Palace. Princess, she just has a prettier face. As the water boiled, Lu Chang'an went to her room and carried the electric bike out. I'll fill the water for you. Come ride the electric bike. Shang Guandandan watched Lu Chang'an's work calmly. When he had filled the water and made the effervescent tablets, Shang Guandandan sat a little in front of the electric bicycle and asked Lu Chang'an to sit behind and take her on the electric bicycle. Dip, Shang Guandandan held the thermos bottle in one hand and pointed forward with the other. Let's go. Lu Chang'an rode an electric bike to the vegetable market with Shang Guandandan and bought 2 kilograms of her favorite braised chicken wings and a portion of chicken. She didn't buy cold dishes because Zhou Shuling made them herself. Shang Guandandan still didn't dare to control the electric pony car by himself, but he felt that he was more in tune with the electric pony car mentally. Shang Guandandan felt that he and it were not far away from the realm of human and vehicle integration. At that time, Shang Guandandan, I dare to ride it myself. After returning home, Lu Chang'an transferred today's pocket money to Shang Guandandan, and then started chatting casually. The weather has been a bit cold recently. It's okay, but if I have an electric heating table, it won't be cold. Shang Guandandan took a sip of hot water and said casually. Electric heating table, this was bought by Zhou Shuling. Lu Chang'an refused to answer this question. I think your quilt stuffed with feathers should be quite warm. Lu Chang'an glanced back at Shang Guandandan's room. Shang Guandandan understood that the value of what Lu Chang'an wanted to get today, or the answers to questions, was higher than 60 yuan and braised chicken wings and chicken buns and hair services and electric pony teaching courses, but less than the electric heating table. That feather is actually your clone, right? Each feather corresponds to a clone of yours. By collecting so many feathers, you are actually taking back all your clones. Lu Chang'an was very doubtful about this. The first time I brought back the clone from Wang Mang's tomb, it was absorbed by Shang Guandandan. Inadvertently, Shang Guandandan became stronger again. Lu Chang'an didn't think that this would be detrimental to his ability to torture Shang Guandandan in the future. He wanted to see what Shang Guandandan looked like in his complete body. How do I know? Shang Guandandan stood up in disbelief, his eyes widened. I am just a weak queen mother. Even if my whole body is covered with feathers, I can't fly. Because I have to shake my wings vigorously to fly. I have no strength. Lu Chang'an was a little helpless and couldn't communicate. This morning's work was completely in vain. No one makes you covered in feathers. I mean, can't you tell me what you are? Shang Guandandan hugged the thermos pot and said angrily, who am I? Do you think you can talk like that? I am who I am. No matter what you think I am, you must remember that on June 1st of that year, you are willing to respect I am a mother. Lu Chang'an had a headache. In fact, because of the need for identity or other reasons, he had done a lot of things to recognize his father and mother. But the key is that those parents have now returned to dust and earth, but this Shang Guandandan is still alive and well. She didn't even suffer from Alzheimer's disease, and she didn't know how many years she had been in the coffin, but she just remembered that he was her son. Do you still remember Emperor Xian Luxun? Shang Guandandan sat down uprightly. It was time to teach him the principles of life and doing things. Lu Chang'an nodded. This was the man who got the throne after Lu He was deposed. Lu Sun's wife was originally Su Guangping's daughter Su Pingjun. She gave birth to Lu Sun's son Lu 11. Not long after, you were deposed. Lu Sun became the emperor. He named his wife Jiu. Jiu's position I did it too, and both of them were going to be queens later. At this time, my aunt also married Lu Sun. Of course, my aunt was the youngest daughter of my grandfather Huo Guang. Everyone in the court made Lu Sun and my aunt Huo Qingjun the queen. Queen. Do you know what Lu Sun did at this time? Shang Guandandan's eyes widened so that Lu Chang'an could clearly see the majesty in her eyes. Lu Xun issued an edict to search for the sword he had lost while fighting in Chang'an City when he was humble. To show that he did not forget his old feelings, he was telling the court that he wanted him to ignore the old feelings and abandon Guangping to establish Huo Qinjun. Impossible, Lu Chang'an praised. As expected of Lu Xun, the entire Western Han dynasty has 4 emperors with temple titles: Emperor Gao, Emperor Wen, and Emperor Wu. Seriously speaking, the emperor who allowed the so-called strong man to show the strongest national power is Lu Xun, but later generations valued martial arts more, so Lu Xunke was often ranked after Emperor Wu. When Lu Xun took over Lu He's throne, Lu Chang'an had no objection at all. He was a man of virtue and talent. In terms of being an emperor, there were only a few people whose talents could rival Lu Xun's in the entire feudal empire era. It's good that you know. Are you not as good as Lu Xun? Lu Xun will look for his old lost sword, but you don't even want me. Shang Guandandan walked around holding a thermos bottle, and he became very angry just thinking about it. Because Lu Chang'an failed to live up to his expectations, he was deposed and replaced as emperor, so Shang Guandandan was moved back and forth between Viang Palace and Changal Palace. Shang Guandandan's little carriage jolted and fell apart, and it took several repairs. This time, Shang Guandandan was heartbroken that those Guo who were pulling the carriage for him had dismounted. Thinking of this, Shang Guandandan put down the thermos bottle and stroked his injured electric pony with distress. Whether it was the pony drawn by the horse or the current electric pony, it was all because of Lu Chang'an that he was injured. As for why it is necessary to move between Viang Palace and Changal Palace, it is of course because Viang Palace is the center of the world. After the death of the previous emperor, before the new emperor officially ascended the throne, and after the emperor was deposed, there must be someone in Viang Palace. Sitting in charge, this person is Shang Guandandan. After Lu Xun ascended the throne and firmly established himself on the throne, Shang Guandandan no longer had to move around and could live safely in Changal Palace, where he began to contact the unsatisfactory Marquis Hai Hun. I'm not as good as Lu Xun when it comes to being an emperor. When it comes to being filial to you, I'm certainly not as good as me. Lu Xun can even bear your contact with the Marquis of Hai Hun without saying a word. Su Pingjun has always been very filial to you. Lu Chang'an thought for a while. When he came to his senses, he didn't come to discuss history with Shang Guandandan. Now Shang Guandandan was biding her identity as the Empress Dowager Xiaozhao of the Western Han dynasty, putting Lu Chang'an at a disadvantage when it came to reasoning. Generally speaking, no one can be more reasonable than Lu Chang'an. If Lu Chang'an is not reasonable, he will beat others to the point of being unable to reason, and then his reason will naturally become the only reason. But the Shang Guandandan he is facing now, it is difficult for him to hit her. Lu Chang'an does not hit people without reason. Facing Shang Guandandan, who can beat her? Tricky. Lu Chang'an suddenly thought of something. Shang Guandandan was almost the Empress Dowager with the most stable position in the entire Western Han dynasty and had never been threatened at all. The other Empress Dowagers were more or less involved, but Shang Guandandan would not be affected even if the Huo family was purged. She stayed out of trouble and remained stable. No one ever tried to move her position. The strangest thing is that when Lu Xun's crown prince Lu XI performed the crowning ceremony, it was Shang Guandandan who came forward to reward him. This is difficult to figure out. You must know that the Western Han dynasty attached great importance to crowning ceremony. For ordinary men, the crowning ceremony was a top priority. What's more, the crown prince. Throughout the Western Han dynasty, only Shang Guandandan and Lu Shi were rewarded by the Empress Dowager at the crown ceremony. Could it be understood that for Lu Xun, his prince wanted to be recognized by Shang Guandandan? To be honest, no matter how filial Lu Xun was it necessary to invite Shang Guandandan, who was living alone at that time and whose power in the court of both his father's and mother's families had been exhausted, to come out to reward Lu XI with the crown ceremony? Lu Xun was filial, and he did pay attention to filial piety, but he wanted to regard an emperor who was as famous as Emperor Gao, Emperor Wen, and Emperor Wu as a person who only knew filial piety. He felt that he asked Shang Guandandan to come forward to reward him as the crown prince. For filial piety, this idea is too simple. Nothing in the emperor's family is simple, and it is true that it often involves countless lives and deaths. What are you thinking about? Shang Guandandan became suspicious when he saw Lu Chang'an standing there without saying a word after he finished speaking, like Zhou Dongdong who was rubbing his belly and thinking about how much more he could eat. It's nothing. Is Lu Xun afraid of you? He knows that you are extraordinary, Lu Chang'an asked directly without beating around the bush. I'm not extraordinary, I'm just an ordinary queen mother, the kind of queen mother who lives in a deserted palace, has no strength to work on her own, and relies on the service of the palace maids to survive. Shang Guandandan finished speaking and shook his head. Shaking his head, he felt that the too long ponytail was getting in the way, so he rolled it up and put it back in his hood. Lu Chang'an looked at the scene and opened his mouth but said nothing. Forget it, I can't tell her clearly, let's wait until Li Hongfang investigates Fujiwara Majiro and Fujiwara Ki. I feel that the information I got from hearsay is probably more than what I learned from Shang Guandandan. Regarding what she is and how she got the coffin, Shang Guandandan is really strict. Lu Chang'an paid so much this morning and still doesn't know anything. It's really amazing. After breakfast, Shang Guandandan drank effervescent water and went to play cards. Lu Chang'an and Zhou Shuling went out together, as well as Zhou Dongdong who was going to school and Protector Lu who was escorting Zhou Dongdong. I made an appointment with Li Hongfang to go to Hexi for business today. Can I have dinner with you at noon? I want to visit Hunan University. I'm so envious that you can go to university, Zhou Shuling said to Lu Chang'an, looking at Zhou Dongdong in front of her with a little regret. Swinging school bag. I originally wanted to say that you can take the college entrance examination again. After thinking about it, I might as well not say it. It's too embarrassing for you. Now it's hard for you to tutor Zhou Dongdong in his studies. Lu Chang'an told the truth. I didn't put in any effort, I can basically do her homework, Zhou Shuling said unconvinced. She is quite smart. She must have the intelligence to go to college, but she just doesn't have the foundation. She will consider this aspect when she has more time. She has also seen many people in their 40s or 50s taking the college entrance examination, but she is still young. The two of them were chatting, and then they saw Lucine squatting at the entrance of the community. Zhou Dongdong, who had already reached the door of the community first, suddenly ran back with a look of horror on his face. Mom, I forgot how to get to school, Zhou Dongdong said to Zhou Shuling in disbelief with his eyes wide open. Then what? Zhou Shuling crossed her arms and looked at her child leisurely. I don't know how to get to school. I'll go back first and wait until I remember how to get to school. After saying that, Zhou Dongdong continued to walk home. Of course, he could just walk to the canteen. It still felt like winter vacation. I also played cards with Sister Dandan at the canteen. If I won money, I would buy a planet cup to eat. If I lost money, the two of them would go home hand in hand. Zhou Shuling stretched out her hand and grabbed Zhou Dongdong's ear. You have forgotten how to get to school, right? Lu Xin hasn't forgotten, let him take you there. Ouch. Zhou Dongdong had no choice but to howl and accept the reality. Zhou Shuling sighed. Other children who have stayed at home for so long usually want to go to school and miss their teachers and classmates. But she just wants to be as idle as the grandparents in the community. You go ahead and go ahead. I'll take her to school. She seems to be registering and handing in her homework today, so she shouldn't be in class. Lu Chang'an held Zhou Dongdong's hand. Zhou Shuling said yet. Although Lu Chang'an often supported Zhou Dongdong's nonsense, he was unambiguous on major matters. It was impossible for him to take Zhou Dongdong back to the community to play as soon as Zhou Shuling turned around. Separating from Zhou Shuling at the fork in the road, Lu Chang'an asked Lucine to go back, and then slowly walked towards the school with Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong stopped and walked along the way, looking at those milk tea shops and shops selling stinky tofu to regain his memory. The two of them walked to the school gate. Lu Chang'an was holding a cup of orange milk tea in his hand. Zhou Dongdong had a plate of chocolates in his pocket and a box of pig ribs in his hand. Lu Chang'an and Zhou Dongdong decided to finish eating before entering the school, so they sat down on the chairs on the landscape path at the school gate. Zhou Dongdong, you just know how to eat? Before Lu Chang'an and Zhou Dongdong sat down, there was a mother and her son resting next to them. The woman was in her 40s and seemed to have a middle-aged son. The child was lean and had a big head. He was wearing a pair of thick glasses and looked at Zhou Dongdong eats. Zhou Dongdong ignored him and was munching on the short ribs attentively, because Zhou Dongdong was hungry halfway through and felt that he had no energy to go to school. Who knew that Brother Chang'an bought short ribs to drive Zhou Dongdong, forcing her to go to school with strength. It's not good to eat too much. If you are so fat and still eat ribs, you have to pay attention to the nutritional balance, the woman also said, looking at Zhou Dongdong and frowning, and then looked away. Eating your pork ribs? What do you care about? I don't know how to raise my own children. You need to teach me. Lu Chang'an gently reminded the other party to stop beeping. If he beeps again, he will tear your mouth. He thinks your Uncle Lu can't do it? No. The woman chuckled lightly, raised her eyebrows, and her already conspicuous cheekbones became more prominent. Isn't this good for your children? Do you think how many children who study well are so fat? Children eat too much, affecting intellectual development. Are you fat? I don't think she is fat. She just has a chubby face. She looks quite cute. I will help her check her body. I don't know if her intelligence has been affected by obesity, Lu Chang'an said disapprovingly. Excessive obesity in children will indeed affect their intellectual development, but Zhou Dongdong's intelligence is already like this and is not the cause of obesity. What's more, Lu Chang'an, a senior expert in the biological field, still uses her to point fingers. It's up to you. Anyway, your Zhou Dongdong is the last in the class. Wang Lin, recite a short English story to your uncle, the woman said to her child Wang Lin. Zhou Dongdong is well known in the school. Some children will also go home and say that there is a classmate in their class who is not good at studying but is very good at eating. Wang Lin glanced at Zhou Dongdong, opened his mouth, laughed twice, and recited a short English story fluently. My Wang Lin is very talented in language learning, and his goal is to go to an Ivy League school, the woman said proudly. Lu Chang'an sneered, then let me ask a question. Mom brought back 5 apples. How can we distribute them to the 4 brothers so that everyone has the same amount? Wang Lin, can you do it? The woman looked at her child with hope. She had heard of this question and knew the answer. This was not actually a math question. Wang Lin adjusted his glasses and frowned in thought. Can I cut the apple? Wang Lin asked after a while. Lu Chang'an shook his head. The woman couldn't help but pull Wang Lin to signal her. Wang Lin looked at his mother in confusion, then turned to look at Lu Chang'an, and continued to think about Lu Chang'an's question. Mom. The woman couldn't help but prompted. Wang Lin's frown relaxed and he looked at Lu Chang'an unconvinced. If you can't cut the apple, you can't divide it equally. Lu Chang'an looked calm, glanced at the woman gently, and then pulled his own Zhou Dongdong out of the barrier. Mom brought back 5 apples. How can we distribute them to the 4 brothers so that everyone is equal? How much? Mom came back with 5 apples. Of course I have to give 1 to my mother. How could it be that only the children ate it and my mother didn't eat it? Zhou Dongdong said loudly while holding the ribs. All the delicious things can be shared with his mother, Chang'an. Brother and sister Dandan. The woman glanced at Wang Lin beside her and her expression changed. Real high-quality education, first of all, gives priority to cultivating children with a strong, gentle, kind and sharing heart. What kind of education is yours? Failure, failure, a complete failure. Lu Chang'an looked at this woman arrogantly. You but be careful and check for yourself what kind of old age the parents lived after raising a child who studied abroad. Of course, it's not absolute. Maybe your family is different. The woman pursed her lips and said nothing. Wang Lin looked around, at Lu Chang'an, at his mother, and at Zhou Dongdong, who continued to chew the ribs. He felt confused and a little at a loss. Did he do something wrong? Lu Chang'an has already pulled Zhou Dongdong to school. Compared with last year when Zhou Dongdong was asked the same answer, she has obviously grown up and does not pay attention to her mother. She has only one child, and there is no one among the 4 children. Something like that. Although Zhou Dongdong is stupid, he is growing up after all. This is enough. As for whether he can memorize some short stories in English, who tmd care ge dandan. Thank you all for your generous tips, especially some students who tip almost every time Xiahua updates, which really puts Xiahua to shame. Xiahua will see the reward list and remember it in her heart. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Can Ru Xiahua. Chapter 829. Zhou Dongdong finished chewing the ribs and walked to the trash can. He hesitated and looked at the bones carefully before throwing them away. Then he licked his fingers and was taken to the sink to wash his hands by Lu Chang'an. Brother Chang'an, there won't be any homework today, right? Zhou Dongdong asked worriedly. I don't know. I haven't been to elementary school for a long time, I guess, Lu Chang'an said uncertainly. There are many people who worry about education, not many of them are competent, and many of them have ulterior motives. There are also many businessmen who are reforming and improving every year. In general, Lu Chang'an feels that many texts are not as good as they were a few decades ago. Many texts in the compulsory education stage are really important and top priority. The content and knowledge in many texts can affect a person's life, such as Hua Lujin's coordination method. Anyone who is enlightened by this text in the compulsory education stage, and those who apply it in their study and life consciously or unconsciously, have obtained great benefits. It may be a bit exaggerated to say that mainland China's compulsory education curriculum was the best in the world in the past, but if you really want to say whose curriculum is more scientific and perfect, you can't point to anyone. That's the objective point of view. This is also the basis of the demographic dividend. Without a certain level of education, no matter how large the population is, it will not bring much demographic dividend. You haven't been to elementary school? Then don't go to college. Come to elementary school with me. We go to and from school together every day. Zhou Dongdong looked at Lu Chang'an expectantly. Go to school with you every day, then stand in front of various stores for a while, arrive at school almost late, and then repeat this process again after school. Lu Chang'an refused. Ouch, Zhou Dongdong jumped up and down. Brother Chang'an didn't go to elementary school, but he can go to college directly. It seems that he doesn't have to go to elementary school. He will tell his mother when he gets back. Stop barking like a dog, it's already the second semester of first grade. Oh. Lu Chang'an accompanied Zhou Dongdong to register, visited various facilities of the school, stayed in the parent communication room for half an hour, and then chatted with the principal and class teacher for a while. Before noon arrived, he took Zhou Dongdong home. Yes, class will officially start tomorrow. There was no homework today. Zhou Dongdong was very happy. He also exchanged back-to-school gifts with Songdazi. Zhou Dongdong gave Songdazi a plate of chocolates, and Songdazi gave Zhou Dongdong a book about children fighting against trash can destroyers. Lu Chang'an took a look. As his name suggests, the trash can vandal is a criminal who destroys trash cans everywhere. He makes people complain wherever he goes and destroys the cleanliness of the city. In order to protect the trash cans, the children started a thrilling battle with the criminals. Finally, the trash can vandal was moved by the children, realized his mistake, and spontaneously came to the school to clean up the trash for the school. Lu Chang'an felt that the red scarf on the chest of the last trash can destroyer was very bright. One of the children who ate a lot looked like Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Dongdong was very happy and looked at the surrounding trash cans vigilantly, but did not find any trash cans. Destroyer. When I returned to the community, I didn't see Shang Guandandan playing cards at the canteen. The card game ended very early today because Aunt Xia was going to have a wedding banquet, and Shang Guandandan had already gone home. Lu Chang'an packed up the large stove and the snakeskin bag containing charcoal downstairs. Lu Xin rushed over from a distance and followed Lu Chang'an and Zhou Dongdong upstairs. As expected, Shang Guandandan was staying at home. What made Lu Chang'an feel extremely uncomfortable was that she was sitting in front of Lu Chang'an's computer. A foreign man who looked a bit like Guo Dastanson's programmer was speaking with a mutton skewer's accent. Instruct Shang Guandandan to enter the game. Standing next to him was Zhu Huntang, who seemed to have accomplished something great and had an extremely powerful expression on his face. At this point, no matter what you say or do, it's all in vain. Zhou Dongdong came over like an accessory that automatically connected to the computer's Bluetooth, climbed onto the stool and sat in Shang Guandandan's arms, looking at the computer screen attentively. They finally installed Spider Solitaire, Minesweeper, and Thunder on Lu Chang'an's computer. You can also find various games in the Death Mother. 40,000 games have been purchased in this account. New games will be purchased for you when they are released. The man introduced to Shang Guandandan. Xiao Tang is so good. Shang Guandandan raised his hand. Zhu Huntang Yang, who received the commendation from the Queen Mother, walked over proudly and asked Shang Guandandan to touch his head. The man turned around, smiled politely at Lu Chang'an, and then walked out of the room under Lu Chang'an's gentle gaze. Lu Chang'an walked over and took a look. His computer had been installed with dual systems, adding many game resources. You can play games, but don't move my computer away. Lu Chang'an took the initiative to compromise. Even if he deleted all the games, what would be the use? As long as Shang Guandandan gives instructions, Zhu Huntang will come and fulfill Shang Guandandan's wishes. Some people may think that it is a bit troublesome for Lu Chang'an to delete it several times, and Shang Guandandan always calls Zhu Huntang to find someone to install it. Then they really do not understand the brain circuits of the leaders of the ruling class of the feudal empire and the heirs of the contemporary bourgeoisie. They will find it troublesome. They only think that it is natural that if they give orders, someone will help them realize their wishes. Shang Guandandan would not be embarrassed to repeatedly instigate Zhu Huntang, and Zhu Huntang would not find it troublesome, because she only asked others to work, and she was rewarded by the Queen Mother, a pat on the head. When Zhu Huntang saw Lu Chang'an coming back, he wanted to butt him, but he immediately remembered that Lu Chang'an kissed his butt yesterday and swore allegiance to her. Not only did he refuse to let her be the owner of the door, he even beat her up, so he gave up. He just greeted him with a proud BAA. After all, in his family, such an educated and elegant young lady as Zhu Huntang would certainly not ignore her master. Zhu Huntang still admired Shang Guandandan very much. From what Lu Chang'an said, he could tell that Shang Guandandan still wanted to steal Lu Chang'an's household appliances and steal his, but Lu Chang'an had no way. The Empress Dowager insisted that she could not agree casually. Shang Guandandan nodded and said that after hearing Lu Chang'an's words, he started to play Minesweeper. Lu Chang'an gave Zhou Dongdong 50 yuan and asked her to take Shang Guandandan to dinner at noon. He also told her to spend the 50 yuan on eating and not to listen to any suggestions from Shang Guandandan. Although it is of no use, you still need to be warned. Could the weak Queen Mother have any evil intentions to defraud children out of money? Shang Guandandan glanced casually at the 50 yuan Zhou Dongdong was holding, and continued to concentrate on clearing mines. Lu Chang'an took Zhu Huntang away. "Why are you going?" Zhu Huntang was dragged out of the community by Lu Chang'an angrily. "He didn't take her to catch the exotic beasts yesterday." This bad old man doesn't mean what he says. Today is the first day of school. Fortunately, Lu Chang'an is back, otherwise this sheep would definitely play with Shang Guandandan there for the whole day, forgetting whether he would remember going to school or not. Isn't the first day of school just about reporting in and paying money? Do I need to do these things in person? Zhu Huntang is also a person with common sense and has a very in-depth understanding of this and does not take it seriously. You only pay once a year, so you don't need to go today. Do you think you are in the same elementary school as Zhou Dongdong? We have classes on the first day of school. There are class meetings and other activities in the morning. Forget it if you don't go. We have classes in the afternoon. Lu Chang'an explained. So that's it? Zhu Huntang thought for a moment and just went. Anyway, with Lu Chang'an accompanying him, it wouldn't be too boring. He reluctantly nodded. You go first, I'll come over after dinner. Then you take Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong to dinner. The 50 yuan must have been taken away by Shang Guandan Shun. Remember to come to class in the afternoon, or I will tell your mother. Lu Chang'an pointed at Zhu Huntang, then he walked to school. He and Zhou Shuling ate outside at noon. Zhu Huntang basically would not go to outside restaurants to eat. She had to use her own special tableware and a special kitchen. Let her use public tableware in outside restaurants. No matter what, disinfection and cleaning are difficult for her to accept. The most she can do is have a meal at Lu Chang'an and Qin Yinan's house, which is the bottom line. Lu Chang'an walked to school. On the way, he received a call from Qin Yinan, asking him if he was going to class in the afternoon. Of course Lu Chang'an was going to go. There were a lot more classes this semester, especially elective courses in the evening. He would finish them by then. The class was too late, so Lu Chang'an had no choice but to stop by in Nuan's house to spend the night. The garter stockings I wore today were the first time I wore 5-digit stockings. They were garter stockings. The sides of the stockings were a bit tight, but luckily they didn't feel like they were squeezing my flesh. They were covered with a skirt and felt a bit stuffy. Later I went to the bathroom to tidy up, and found that the way the sling was tied against the thighs and close to the flesh was really sexy, and it felt a bit like it outlined the buttocks near the base of the legs. Then I met Yan Qingcheng coming to the bathroom. She seemed very envious. After all, girls' legs are thinner. If they wear garters, they won't have the plump feeling. What do you think? After Qin Yinan finished talking about the business, he asked casually. He knew women so well, and the scene described in words, you should be able to imagine it, and you should be able to confirm her point of view based on the imaginary picture. You're right. Lu Chang'an didn't want to argue with her. As long as he agreed with her, she would have nothing more to say and could end the topic and hang up the phone. Lu Chang'an felt a little emotional. Women always show their superb language talent at such times. Qin Yinan was talking about Yan Qingcheng, but Lu Chang'an knew who the real target of her ridicule was, but he would not give it to Lu Chang'an. The words to maintain peace and warmth. Yan Qingcheng is only 1.7 meters tall, much shorter than An Nuan, but the two have similar figures. They both have the appearance of tall girls, so naturally they are not as plump as Qin Yinan. But for a girl, An Nuan's figure is just right, and Qin Yinan has not carefully observed or really compared An Nuan and Yan Qingcheng. She just thinks that An Nuan's figure is thin based on her prejudiced impression. This is too underestimated by Lu Chang'an's recommendation. Under the hard work of reclaiming mountains and seas, the strength is increasing day by day. After hanging up the phone, Lu Chang'an received a photo from Qin Yinan, which was a selfie she took in the bathroom, asking him to see if her socks were a little tight. It was really vulgar. Why do so many people post selfies of themselves on this day? Lu Chang'an was slightly confused, and then called Zhou Shuling to ask for the location. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Siahua. Chapter 830. Lu Chang'an hung up the phone and waited for a moment. Fortunately, Zhou Shuling didn't send a selfie to him. Zhou Shuling actually sent him a selfie before. Usually after she put on makeup carefully and felt ready to meet people, she took a photo and sent it to Lu Chang'an to see how it went. From this point of view, Zhou Shuling's behavior of sending him selfies was a bit silly and cute, not so vulgar. She criticized Qinyanan and Bai Hui by name. Lu Chang'an thought for a while and looked in the WeChat moments. Zhou Shuling took a few photos and posted them in the moments. Judging from Li Hongfang's appearance, these photos should have been done by Li Hongfang. The photos taken by Zhou Shuling were not like this. There are all kinds of fancy photo editing and stickers, not to mention looking for angles to take photos of long legs. Zhou Shuling is wearing a black skirt and flesh-colored stockings. The flesh-colored stockings feel a bit undue, but if it is called a bare leg artifact, it seems a little better. After all, it depends on the person and what kind of legs they are wearing. Superior. The keynote of Li Hongfang's clothing matching is white. It seems that the two of them are really adopting the black and white style today. Lu Chang'an can't remember clearly what Li Hongfang said they bought in black and white underwear. They are probably in it today. The outfit did not evoke any imaginary images for Lu Chang'an. It's been a while since the photo was posted, and the comments were all from acquaintances. Old Man Qian commented objectively, "The two female dolls are so beautiful. Mrs. Lu is looking forward to it, let the one in white join our dance team." Qinyanan praised and greeted very politely, "Sister Zhou, is this Grandma Dong Dong? He looks so young, standing next to you as if he is about 10 years older than you." Zhu Huntang watched the fun, "Baa ha baa 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 hey baa, I'd better just laugh, ha 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 ha." Shang Guandandan left a message of unknown meaning, "Meat buns." Lu Chang'an knew that Zhou Shuling posted this kind of selfie, and the comments below were quite lively, but he didn't have many friends in common, so he could only see this much. Zhou Shuling replied with a few words to each post, in a serious and polite manner, unlike some people who never reply to other people's messages. "I don't know if there are any messages from All Stars and Mi Jiaoming." After the new year, these two people stopped frequenting the rice noodle store to pursue Zhou Shuling, which caused the rice noodle store's revenue to drop a lot. This is a very regrettable thing. Just like in the past, although Tofuzishi would suffer a lot of gossip and even harassment from local ruffians, the tofu business was better after all. Today's Tofuzishi is different. If you can be called that, you might even become an internet celebrity shop owner and bring in customer traffic. This is the progress of the new era, which has an impact on all aspects of social life. There may be some changes that make people feel regretful and disappointed, but in the end, there are more positive improvements. It's true to miss the old times, but always wishing for society to regress and look back is just bad, or stupid and bad, not even worthy of simple stupidity. Lu Chang'an came to school habitually thinking about humanistic issues. Lu Chang'an came to the school many times during the winter vacation. Today is obviously more lively than usual. There are still students and parents who come to drop off their children. However, this is only a very rare phenomenon. In the early years, there was always independent thinking, in-depth analysis, and sharp-sighted public knowledge. Elements sadly say that domestic parents overindulge their children and their children lack the ability to live independently, while in foreign countries, children go to school alone and develop extraordinary independent living abilities from an early age. Nowadays, more people are going abroad, and more people are actually living and studying abroad. Naturally, there is no market for such remarks. If you publish them, you will be ridiculed as a public intellectual of the tomb section. Take Zhou country as an example. The whole family is dispatched, including the sight of grandparents all dispatching to send children to school is truly a common sight. Lu Chang'an nodded. He is now a truly ordinary Chinese, and his ideological imprint is like that of ordinary Chinese. It is great, a perfect young man of the new era, a truly positive and healthy Hulang. The crowd on campus was in twos and threes, and Lu Chang'an was counting the sycamore trees on the roadside. This year's Arbor Day was coming soon, and he came to Hunan University again, and he would plant some more sycamore trees. When planting sycamore trees, it is more suitable to take Zhou Shuling, Zhou Dongdong, and Shang Guandandan with you. Asking Zhou Shuling to plant trees is to give her some idea. My daughter-in-law always thinks that she is smarter. I hope that after planting trees on Arbor Day, she will have a good idea of her own IQ. Letting Zhou Dongdong plant trees is just to cultivate the values of caring for trees and actively participating in public welfare activities in children. If there are other purposes, there will always be people beeping Lu Chang'an to bully Zhou Dongdong. Even the fearless dragon will be afraid. Forget it. As for Shang Guandandan, she definitely doesn't know how to plant trees. She is just a weak queen mother. She has no strength and can't pick up a hoe or shovel, so hang her on a sycamore tree to enjoy the scene. As the saying goes, phoenix living in the sycamore tree. Lu Chang'an, what are you doing here? Someone said hello, and Lu Chang'an turned around. It turned out to be Tong 11, whom he had just met yesterday. She and Qin's Haiqiang went to the comic exhibition together, and Lu Chang'an even took a photo with Bai Hui with them. Yesterday Tong 11 put on makeup, but today she looks barefaced, but the difference is not very big, and it is not so magical that it appears rotten, which shows that Tong 11 has a good foundation, otherwise Lu Chang'an would not be able to recognize her. I am preparing to inspire my relatives and friends to love afforestation and make them aware of the importance of environmental protection. At the same time, I recall that in 1928, when the nationalist government commemorated the 3rd anniversary of Sun Yat-sen's death, it determined Arbor Day to be March 12th every year, which contains revolutionary meanings. I wish that those who inherit the will of the forerunners will move forward with inspiration, and that the revolutionary cause will grow as strong as a green tree. Of course, you also know who the real successor is. What's the matter? Lu Chang'an said. Tong 11 was stunned for a while before he noticed the last two words Lu Chang'an said, and quickly shook his head. No, I want to say hello to you. The comic exhibition is still one day today. I don't know if Hui Si is going, you do you know? People I met at comic exhibitions or through the ACT cultural circle all like to call each other CN, which is cozer name. They choose some cute, middle-aged, silly, and artificial names. The CN of white fennel is called fennel 4, which is relatively simple. She shouldn't be here today. A heavyweight guest like her usually won't go for 2 days. Lu Chang'an shook his head. The organizer of the comic exhibition also has to consider the cost. Bai Hui's appearance fee and performance fee are calculated separately. The price was very expensive. She had discussed the price with Lu Chang'an, and Lu Chang'an also lamented that the price of fennel beans was driven up in this way. Fennel beans, MMM. Many people may only know about Kong Yuji's stories, but may not even know that fennel beans are broad beans. Add water to the broad beans and cook over high heat. When the sides of the bean skin are raised and the middle is sunken, add the ingredients and simmer for a while. The beans are fragrant, slightly salty, and tender. Hold them in your mouth, suck them in and then bite them lightly. It is the most suitable way to eat it. Most people who have traveled to Shaoxing know that there is a Xianheng hotel there that sells hundreds of kilograms of fennel beans every day. Anisi is planning to set up his own studio and is recruiting people. I plan to apply for the job. It will be beautiful to think about being able to work with my idol, Tong 11 said with great anticipation. Work hard. Lu Chang'an didn't know about this, but it was normal. Bai Hui probably wanted to develop in this area when she bought a house. She usually had to go to class, and it was very time-consuming to shoot videos and post-edit them. In this case, she also promised Lu Chang'an to teach square dancing. She didn't seem to be free because she was free. Thank you. Chin's Haikyung and I made an appointment to have dinner together. Goodbye. First Tong 11 waved and said goodbye to Lu Chang'an. She actually wanted Lu Chang'an to help say hello to Bai Hui, but after thinking about it, she decided not to go. Lu Chang'an wasn't very familiar with him, so he was a bit too presumptuous to say this. Tong 11 was pretty sure that if it was Lu Chang'an who said hello, Bai Hui would probably consider Tong 11. She could see it yesterday. When Bai Hui looked at Lu Chang'an, there was light in her eyes. Lu Chang'an remembered that he had also made an appointment with Zhou Shuling to have lunch with him, probably with Li Hongfang. Zhou Shuling wanted to eat in the school cafeteria and experience university life, so Lu Chang'an went to the cafeteria that she had made an appointment with. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 831. Lu Chang'an came to the cafeteria. Many people, adhering to the style of not being active in studying and taking the first place in eating, had already prepared hot meals happily. In the cafeteria, if you go to the first batch of dishes that are prepared and put into pots, the dishes you get will have more meat, and if you go last, the remaining dishes will also have more meat. If you go there either early or late, you will usually get more meat. Not enough pieces of meat to share. When the whole country was studying Hualujin's optimization method and coordinating method to improve work efficiency, Lu Chang'an used the canteen as a practical object and came to this conclusion, which greatly improved the efficiency of his study, work, and eating. Eating well, eating more, and eating with pleasure is of course beneficial to improving study and work. The premise is that you don't just know how to eat. For example, Zhou Dongdong's child only knows how to eat, so no matter how good the food is, eating no matter how much, how pleasant it was to eat, it did not improve her study. Entering the cafeteria, Lu Chang'an saw Zhou Shuling and Li Hongfang. Because the cafeteria did not accept cash, they could only wait here for Lu Chang'an's treat. Lu Chang'an thought about it and realized that he rarely entertained guests. Except when he took Guan Dandan and Zhou Dongdong to eat out, others paid the bill. Then Zhou Shuling and Li Hongfang's face will be great today. How long have you been shopping? Lu Chang'an asked. Zhou Shuling was still holding a shopping bag in her hand. It seemed that she had awakened to the joy of shopping under the leadership of Li Hongfang. In the past, it was extremely rare for Zhou Shuling to buy clothes for 2 days in a row. Lu Chang'an knows when Zhou Shuling buys clothes, because after she buys them, she always likes to try on the clothes and walk around in front of Lu Chang'an to ask if they look good. In Zhou Shuling's opinion, Lu Chang'an's vision is the most accurate. If he says it looks good, then it looks so good, Zhou Shuling can rest assured that she bought the right one. Lu Chang'an felt that Zhou Shuling still didn't care enough about her personal quality of life. With her income level, she could treat herself better. Nowadays, many girls would rather spend ahead of schedule and overdraw their future, but also want to improve their quality of life and pursue the so-called sense of ritual. As for the cost, they generally don't care. Although they don't say it explicitly, many of them have the wish in their hearts. The abacus, what is revealed now will be the responsibility of the future husband. There are actually quite a few traditional women like Zhou Shuling nowadays, but many are quite a few. When it comes to individuals, it is very difficult for marriageable men to meet one. Not long after, I saw a store when I came over and took a look. Li Hongfang explained quickly, lest brother Lu think that he was not doing anything serious and had been wandering around with Zhou Shuling all morning. The more contacts she had, the more Li Hongfang learned. She was basically certain that Zhou Shuling and Lu Chang'an had actually had a relationship, but because they both wanted to maintain their current relationship, they kept silent. Just like some friends of the opposite sex who act wildly when they are drunk, and look at each other awkwardly after waking up, so let's just pretend that nothing happened. The reason why Li Hongfang made such a judgment was, of course, a conclusion she reached after a series of observations, analysis, and rigorous reasoning. She had even thought of all the details in the story. Even Lu Chang'an used his extraordinary power to Li Hongfang has thought about the gestures that ordinary men cannot achieve. How is the university? Lu Chang'an asked Zhou Shuling again. It must be Zhou Shuling's first time visiting Hunan University. Li Hongfang is a frequent visitor, but being a tour guide for Zhou Shuling is not enough. Lu Chang'an is still familiar with Hunan University. After dinner, we will take a look around. Zhou Shuling nodded, with admiration and joy on her face. I will study hard after I go back, and I will also take the exam for Hunan University in the future. Lu Chang'an smiled encouragingly at her good wishes and positive attitude towards improving her life. Sister Zhou, by the time you get admitted to Hunan University, Brother Lu will have already graduated, and you won't be able to be alumni, Li Hongfang said regretfully. I just want to go to college. Zhou Shuling didn't understand what Li Hongfang meant. What did this have to do with Lu Chang'an? Could it be that since she was an alumnus of Lu Chang'an, could he help her with her homework? Even if he graduates, he can still be tutored, just like Lu Chang'an tutored Zhou Dongdong. Zhou Shuling doesn't think that the living conditions of the two of them will change after Lu Chang'an graduates. It should still be the same as now. Can your brain circuit be normal? Lu Chang'an glared at Li Hongfang. The difference between Li Hongfang and Zhu Huntang is that Li Hongfang goes astray when thinking about things because she has too rich imagination and draws inferences from one instance. She does not want to target Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang, on the other hand, just wants to cause trouble. Most of the time, she deliberately provokes Lu Chang'an to show her ability. As long as she can make Lu Chang'an angry and she is not beaten, she will feel a sense of accomplishment. Therefore, Lu Chang'an only occasionally gave Li Hongfang a small whip, and mainly focused on educating and criticizing her. He did not do anything to her. Lu Chang'an quite recognized Li Hongfang's ability to do things and other aspects. In particular, Li Hongfang fully recognized Lu Chang'an's moral character, personal charm, and noble character. She was someone who could be trusted and cultivated, so Lu Chang'an was naturally more tolerant of her. What's more, although the master of the Zhu Fenglai sword sect is very restrained and clean in his personal life, the tradition within the sect is to accept female disciples of various personality types and styles. Li Hongfang has not yet officially entered the school, so she is also an object of observation. As long as she can continue to highly recognize Lu Chang'an's character and learn from his moral character, it will be a matter of time before she officially joins the 9 provinces Fenglai sword sect. Okay, Brother Lu. Li Hongfang placed her hands in front of her lower abdomen, lowered her head slightly, and agreed obediently. Lu Chang'an motioned for them to get their plates, and then went to the cafeteria window to get food. He kept standing there talking, which was very eye-catching, especially since Zhou Shuling and Li Hongfang were both dressed up today. Mature women with thin waists and round hips, especially even though they were wearing thick clothes in the cold weather, their assets were still exposed when they separated their coats, which made the hormonal male college students eager to move and couldn't help but glance over. After thinking about it, Lu Chang'an sent a text message to An Nuan, reporting that Zhou Shuling and Li Hongfang came to Hunan University to hang out after finishing errands, and he invited them to dinner. An Nuan replied quickly, because today was the first day of school and she was quite busy. The counselor in their class didn't care about anything at all. She didn't even show her face today. The class committee was handling all the matters in the class, so she had no choice but to please ask Lu Chang'an to entertain Zhou Shuling well on your behalf. What An Nuan said was not wrong. It was not to show off her close relationship with Lu Chang'an in front of Zhou Shuling. It was a normal social courtesy. Lu Chang'an conveyed to Zhou Shuling An Nuan's helplessness that she wanted to entertain him warmly but was unable to do anything. Zhou Shuling said that it didn't matter, she could just go ahead and she was not an outsider. Li Hongfang has already ordered 3 dishes and is waiting for Lu Chang'an to pay. I always feel that eating in the cafeteria is very good. The 3 of them sat down. After Zhou Shuling finished speaking, her cheeks were bulging. She stared at her plate. She looked up at Lu Chang'an and found that he was smiling, a little embarrassed, holding chopsticks. Poke the rice. Like Zhou Dongdong, Lu Chang'an laughs because of this. Many of Zhou Shuling's little actions are actually as stupid as Zhou Dongdong, but as an adult, he is usually not so casual and naive, but it is revealed in a relaxed mood and environment. It's all inheritance and precepts and deeds. Eating in the cafeteria is cheap, and there are many choices. You can order the food by looking at it, unlike in a restaurant where you don't know what it is like before the food is served. Li Hongfang said with some experience. You can also choose to rent a school if you want to rent a house. There are many low-cost shops nearby, and you can also find ways to eat in the school cafeteria, which will save you a lot of money. Did you go to college? Zhou Shuling asked Li Hongfang enviously. Li Hongfang nodded. She actually understood Zhou Shuling's mood. Don't look at various reports and surveys saying that there are more college students running around than dogs. This is actually wrong. You must know that 70 to 80 million dogs are sold in China every year. For the rabies vaccine, even if everyone gets 5 shots, it will only protect 15 million people from being bitten. What's more, many people only take 2 shots and then stop, and there are many people who don't take it to save trouble or save money. There are so many people bitten, so it is still very rare to say that there are many more dogs than college students. If you really want to go to college, you should plan carefully, buy study materials and ask teachers to make up classes. If you work hard until you can't pass the exam in the end, you will have no regrets. Lu Chang'an was slightly moved by Zhou Shuling's obsession. Okay, seeing that Lu Chang'an finally spoke in a supportive manner, Zhou Shuling's confidence increased greatly, as if she had to have someone make the decision for her to do something, otherwise she would hesitate and not know whether to do it or not. While they were eating, Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong came over. As a roommate, Lu Chang'an had never actually lived in the dormitory, and he didn't spend much time there. However, the relationship between them was okay now, and Sun Shutong and Wei Xuanyi didn't look like they did when school started. There are a lot of little ones hidden like that. If there are any activities or things going on in the class, Lu Chang'an will be told by the way. Lu Chang'an, are you having dinner with your sisters? Wei Xuanyi looked at Zhou Shuling and Li Hongfang and gave them the bright smiles of sunshine boys. These mature women should have a good impression of sunshine boys on university campuses, but their own eyesight is a bit lacking. Yes, the mature charm exuded by the two women made Wei Xuanyi think that these are women. Compared with them, most girls in the school are just sour little lemons, but the two in front of him are absolutely fragrant. Peach. Sun Shutong smiled and stood beside Wei Xuanyi without saying anything. He was just sighing. What Lu Chang'an said at the beginning of school last year was so reasonable. As long as you know one beautiful woman, you can know a group of beauties, because beautiful women have my friends are also beautiful women. Lu Chang'an chatted with them for a while, and Wei Xuanyi and Sun Shutong were not without winks. They made some jokes and successfully made Zhou Shuling and Li Hongfang smile, and left with satisfaction. When a man makes a woman laugh sometimes, he may not necessarily have any intention. Unless he keeps teasing her and she keeps laughing, something will happen. After dinner, Lu Chang'an acted as a tour guide and introduced to Zhou Shuling the history and cultural landscape of Hunan University. Then he walked to Lushan Academy to have a look. Only then did Zhou Shuling leave with satisfaction, and made up her mind that even if it takes 10 or 8 years, she must admitted to Hunan University. Lu Chang'an thought for a while. If she could get into Hunan University in 10 or 8 years, she might be able to enroll in the same year as Zhou Dongdong. After thinking about Zhou Dongdong's results, Lu Chang'an was a little embarrassed. He was worried that Zhou Shuling wouldn't be able to pass the exam. Or should we be more worried about when Zhou Dongdong will pass the exam? After Zhou Shuling visited, she took the subway back. Li Hongfang lived here. Of course, there was no need to follow Zhou Shuling. She followed Lu Chang'an to see if the door owner had any instructions. Brother Lu, how do you evaluate the tomb of Hai Hanyu and the tomb of Xianzui? At present, which one is more valuable to excavate? Li Hongfang asked. Xianzui's tomb, my girlfriend once said. Hai Hanyu's tomb can be compared with Xianzui's tomb, Lu Chang'an said with a smile. Both An Nuan and Lu Yuwang supported Xianzui's tomb. Lu Chang'an was weak alone, so he wanted to be honest. There is a wet corpse in Xianzui's tomb. If Hai Hanyu has been lying in it, then Hai Hanyu's tomb must be more valuable. It was said that there was a living coffin in Xianzui's tomb. Lu Chang'an thought of the living coffin in Wang Mang's tomb. Could it be the same type? I originally thought about taking Guandandan to have a look, but I never thought about it. Let's go see it with her sometime in the next few days. Maybe Shang Guandandan can get another feather or something. Confirming Lu Chang'an's guess. I think so too. Those are the only things in Hai Hanyu's tomb. Even if it has a number 2 tomb, what else could it have? Ever since Li Hongfang visited Wang Mang's tomb, he no longer paid attention to ordinary tombs. Tomb no 2, Lu Chang'an frowned. How did you know? That Li Jiama, he kept saying that Marquis Haihan had tomb number 2 and that there was something he wanted in it. When I was investigating Fujiwara Quay and Fujiwara Majiro, I found that Li Jiama had something to do with them. I just pretended to be interested and asked him what he wanted to do with me, Li Hongfang explained. I'm really immortal. Author, Chu Lian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 832. Normal people would be concerned if their own graves were dug. The tomb of Hai Hanyu was discovered in 2011, and it was selected as one of the top 10 new archaeological discoveries in 2015. It gradually became famous around the world. Lu Chang'an also searched for relevant information to learn more. However, he did not go to the provincial museum next door to see the exhibition in person. He had some sentiments, but there was really nothing interesting to see. Those things and those displayed in various museums were essentially a historical flavor, which was a little intoxicating and a little stale. According to the official introduction, there are 2 main tombs and 7 accompanying tombs at the Hai Hanyu tomb site. The tomb number 2 is of course one of the 2 main tombs, but the tomb number 2 mentioned by Li Jiama is accurate. It is said that it should be another tomb site of Hai Hanyu. As a deposed emperor and later a marquis, it was normal for him to prepare several more tombs for himself. At that time, he did not ask to be buried together with the Empress Dowager Shang Guandandan. Wasn't this already a very particular etiquette? He made a mistake. He didn't want to be buried with the Empress Dowager, but he was a little regretful that as an emperor, he didn't have a queen. He felt that his career as an emperor was a little lacking. Lu Chang'an recalled it carefully. He usually didn't think about it. Things like tomb number 2 were naturally kept deep in his heart and had no deep impression. However, when Li Hongfang talked about it, Lu Chang'an brought up a lot of memories. After being demoted to the kingdom of Haihan as a marquis, the connection between Hai Hanyu and Chang'an was not interrupted, especially the connection with Changle Palace. After Emperor Xian succeeded to the throne, Shang Guandandan handed over the jade seal of the kingdom to Emperor Xian, and moved it to Emperor Xian. He left Viang Palace and lived in Changle Palace. From this time on, rewards from Changle Palace were sent during every year and festival, including silk and satin treasures priced in gold, as well as real gold. There was a lot of gold in the Western Han Dynasty. According to statistics, Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty rewarded the most meritorious officials in the Western Han Dynasty, as much as 800,000 kilograms, which is an astronomical figure. The recorded gold rewards in the entire Western Han Dynasty are equivalent to the current weight of 250 tons, and in 2015, my country's gold reserves were only over 1,000 tons. At that time, Rome spent nearly 10 tons of gold every year to buy silk and satin produced in the Western Han Dynasty. It's funny to think about it. The Roman Empire, which has been boasted by countless historians, even had extremely low technical levels in making clothes. How could it be so prosperous and powerful? Where to go? In Lu Chang'an's memory, the reward of 250 tons was actually denominated in gold, not 250 tons of gold in circulation. Just like the GDP of many countries is now measured in US dollars, but economic activities are not necessarily measured in US dollars. It's just a calculation. However, most of the rewards from Changal Palace are real gold, yellow gold. This is why the gold unearthed from the tomb of Hai Han Ho is the best in the tombs of Han Dynasty. As a marquee, the gold in the tombs of princes at the same time the amount of gold unearthed is far from comparable. According to historical records, the huge amount of gold in the Western Han Dynasty decreased sharply in subsequent history, and there was even a feeling that it was missing. In fact, a large part of it was because it was buried in tombs. Part of it was buried in the tomb and was taken away by tomb robbers, so it is naturally impossible to count it. The other part was buried deep in the ground by Hai Han Ho, who was good at digging graves and burying gold. It has not been discovered yet. In general, the gold discovered so far in Hai Han Ho's tomb is only part of Hai Han Ho's collection at that time, not all of his possessions. The number 2 tomb found by Li Jiama may contain more gold than the one currently excavated. Li Jiama didn't tell you the specific location of tomb number 2, right? Lu Chang'an asked casually. No, unless I agree to cooperate, and after making preliminary preparations, finding the right manpower, and having funds and equipment in place, he will be able to reveal the approximate scope and specific address only when he is ready to excavate. Li Hongfang shook his head. However, from the preliminary preparations, we can also analyze some clues, such as the local soil quality, geographical environment, etc., but it is still impossible to analyze the location that is too specific. The grave digging industry is extremely unscrupulous. Teams that have been partners for many years and that work well together are not worthy of trust. They may suddenly break up or even directly seek wealth and death. Husbands and wives and brothers who have had troubles have no idea what they are. How many? Even if everyone cooperates, they will keep their own hands, and each one will have more eyes than the other. It is impossible for Li Jiama to tell Li Hongfang everything. The two sides will only work step by step, contact cautiously, and advance bit by bit. Actually, I looked through ancient maps and looked for old information, and I can basically remember where the number 2 tomb is. Lu Chang'an said with certainty. The Zhuzhu Fenglai Jianmen became a powerful family in the Song dynasty, and its starting capital was the Han dynasty. The gold buried in time. The cunning rabbit has 3 caves. Of course, gold cannot be buried in just one place. A little here and a little there is not only convenient for access, but also can spread the risk. The biggest disadvantage is that there are too many places to bury it. Even if a treasure map is made, most of it will be lost. Most locations will still be forgotten. Li Hongfang's grandfather, Li Daoren, produced the treasure map of the world. Many of the treasure spots were based on the dictation of his friend Su Zhuzhu. However, when Su Zhuzhu told it, he would be slightly biased to avoid being poached by Li Daoren and his descendants. Of course, it was just a slight deviation, not a big deviation, so some were still poached. This is why Lu Chang'an said that the treasure map of the world was inaccurate, while Li Hongfang thought it was accurate. Our sect has such a long history, Li Hongfang praised proudly, and was keenly aware of the key factors. Sect master, since you can determine where tomb number 2 is by yourself, let's kill Li Jiama and go it alone. Lu Chang'an knew that Li Hongfang was a good candidate and that if he used her properly, she could do many things for him. The most important thing was that he was ruthless and could handle things that were not in line with the core values of socialism without any psychological pressure. Although she seemed to be obedient in front of Lu Chang'an, that was just because she was facing Lu Chang'an. She is also very honest in front of Sunangziu. When facing a successful person like Li Jiama, Li Hongfang did not take him seriously even after he had evil thoughts. If it was before, she might have carefully considered the trouble afterwards, but now that she felt she had a big backer, she don't care anymore. Are you stupid? If we kill him and go it alone, aren't we going to cause trouble for ourselves? Lu Chang'an shook his head. We can't do this. Wait until he helps us make preliminary preparations and solves all aspects of personnel and material coordination for us. From now on, if we kill him again, you must make the best use of everything you do you understand? Li Hongfang patted his head in annoyance. He was still too simple and rude, unlike the sect master who was as comprehensive and thoughtful as the sect master. But what Li Hongfang was happy about was that he would still make progress by following the sect master. To revive the Zhou Fenglai sword sect, it will naturally require a lot of funds. Considering what Lu Chang'an said about the style and scale of the Zhou Fenglai sword sect in the Song dynasty, Li Hongfang felt that the little wealth he had was not enough to squander it. This was probably Lu Chang'an's view on probably one of the reasons why Hai Hanyu no 2's tomb moved my heart. More importantly, Li Jiama spent an unknown amount of manpower, material, and financial resources to find tomb number 2, which has no historical records, but Lu Chang'an was able to determine where tomb number 2 was, which fully demonstrates his superb level in finding tombs. No wonder he told himself that he was dabbled in this area at the beginning. It seems that the level is actually extremely high, but he is very good, unlike some people who really only dabbled a little, but would brag about themselves and Taishan Baidu. Like the industry leaders. After the discovery of tomb number 1 of Haihanho, relevant professionals and national research institutions were not aware of the existence of tomb number 2. Li Jiama probably obtained the information accidentally and determined it after further in-depth research. But Lu Chang'an thought for a moment. If I could dig all the treasure spots in the treasure map of the world with Lu Chang'an in my lifetime, I would have no regrets in this life, and such an experience would definitely take a long time, and I and Lu Chang'an have a tacit understanding for such a long time. If she cooperates, when he asks her to remove the hip armor again, it will definitely not be to kick her. Thinking of this, Li Hongfang's cheeks flushed. Looking at what excites you, do you think digging graves is more fun? Lu Chang'an knew what state Li Hongfang was in when he saw Li Hongfang's body trembling slightly and the abnormal flush on her cheeks and skin. If she was forced to dig graves due to financial problems, Li Hongfang would definitely not be so excited. After all, she had decided to quit the tomb robbing industry, but now that she was following Lu Chang'an, she felt that it was not as dangerous and frightening as before, more like something adventures will naturally be fun and look forward to. Ah, of course. No, it's not, the rice noodle shop is going to open, and Brother Lu has to cooperate with what he wants to do. Li Hongfang was as obedient as ever and obeyed the arrangements. Lu Chang'an nodded. Contact Li Jiama. You can adapt to the situation and notify me in time if anything happens. You can make up an identity for me with Li Jiama and ask me to participate together. Okay, I'll contact him. Watching Lu Chang'an walking towards the teaching building, Li Hongfang contacted Li Jiama and returned to the hotel. Li Jiama did not come to Junsha for tourism. For him, the best hotel in Junsha did not have any appeal. He chose to stay in the same hotel as Li Hongfang to facilitate contact. He originally made a special trip to see Li Hongfang. After receiving a call from Li Hongfang, Li Jiama knew that things had finally turned around. He simply revealed a little bit of information about Haihanyu number 2 tomb. After much thought, Li Hongfang was finally moved. Li Jiama knew Li Hongfang very well. He was a tomb robber with certain tastes and pursuits. His level was much higher than those guys who just wanted to dig random graves and collect some underworld weapons. After all, people are like this when they have a little more money. When they make more money, they are no longer so simple. They prefer to put on pretense and try to be more stylish in everything. Nowadays, Tomb number 1 of Ho Hai Han has shocked the archaeological world and is famous all over the world. Some people are even considering removing some of the tombs in the top 10 tombs in the world to make room for the tomb of Ho Hai Han. In fact, according to many people's opinions, some of the so-called top 10 tombs in the world are not worthy of carrying shoes, let alone the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, and they are not even worthy of carrying shoes for the tomb of Marquis Hai Han. Now that tomb number 2 has been released, how could someone like Li Hongfang not want to be involved? This is also a powerful character. Ordinary tomb robbers would be very happy to dig up the grave of an ancient small landowner. To impress Li Hongfang, he needs this kind of peerless treasure. The information obtained by Li Jiama showed that the number 1 tomb of Hai Han Ho was actually a fake tomb. The most important treasures of Hai Han Ho were all in the number 2 tomb. The life experience of this Hai Han Yu is legendary, and it is definitely not as described in later historical books, unofficial histories, and film and television dramas. This man is quite extraordinary. If Hai Han Ho was really a waste, how could he keep the Shangguan Empress Dowager nostalgic? Rewards and letters from Changle Palace were continuously sent to Hai Han Kingdom. Li Jiama and Li Hongfang made an appointment to meet in the hotel's executive lounge. It was afternoon tea time, and Li Jiama saw Li Hongfang sitting on the L-shaped sofa by the window. The sunlight filtered in through the floor-to-ceiling windows and fell on Li Hongfang's long, wavy hair, which outlined a perfect and uneven figure. Shape. Li Jiama couldn't help but smile. With his status, there were many women, but Li Jiama usually did not expend his energy in this area. Only when he saw Li Hongfang, he always felt that he was still a young man with strong hormone secretion. Same. The hips and plump legs, which are far fuller than those of ordinary mature women, really hit Li Jiama's XP. Li Jiama casually picked up a bottle of tonic water, held the ice-cold bottle in his hand, and sat next to Li Hongfang, where he could just see the scenery outside the window and the beauty's silhouette. Mr. Li is really extraordinary. The Cultural Relics Department over there, together with more than a dozen units, has only fully excavated tomb number 1. There is no information indicating the existence of tomb number 2. How did you know? Li Hongfang complimented with a smile, since Lu Chang'an has decided to participate, and her attitude has naturally changed. First boarding the pirate ship, and then killing the thieves and seizing the ship, Li Hongfang imitated Lu Chang'an and showed a gentle smile from the bottom of his heart. Li Jiama looked around and saw that in addition to himself and Li Hongfang in the executive lounge, there were 2 middle-aged men talking about something in another corner. In the center was a young couple who were in the hotel, eating and taking selfies. In fact, in many cases, carefully planned meetings and arranged addresses are often easier to leak. On the contrary, this kind of temporary public place is much safer. Li Jiama did not lower his voice deliberately, and said with a little pride, in 2011, a group of people dug holes in Guangzhou village, Datangping Township. They were reported by local villagers. After the investigation by the relevant departments, the tomb of Marquis Hai Han was dug. Found out, but no one pays attention to this group of people. Li Hongfang understood somewhat. After all, Li Jiama is Li Jiama. People can succeed because they have some vision and unique perspective. Many people often fail to notice such information. This group of people must have been found by Li Jiama. Tomb number 2 was discovered. They were a small group, but they were lucky. They got clues about the 2 tombs of Marquis Hai Han in an ancient tomb. In the end, they chose tomb number 1, which is now being excavated. But their luck was not so good at this time. The tomb number 1 they chose was actually not that easy to dig, and someone reported it to them, so they had to give up halfway. Li Jiama continued, the number 2 tomb is actually not far from the number 1 tomb, but now it is they can't attack in the middle of town. Li Hongfang nodded. She had already done some homework and thought about several towns around tomb number 1, but she couldn't be sure for the time being. Due to the limitations of funds and manpower, Small gangs cannot start in such a place, but it should not be difficult for Li Jiama. A well-known internet technology company boss like him, as long as he invests in some local technology industrial park with the flag, it is not difficult to circle a place. When Li Jiama came to see Li Hongfang, it was mainly due to Li Hongfang's expertise, because it does not mean that just by excavating a circle, you can find the tomb. After all, how to dig and in which direction, the most important thing is to protect the unearthed things during the excavation process. That's the most important thing. If a layman were to dig casually, he might accidentally destroy what Li Jiama wanted, or even cause a landslide and water intrusion, destroying the entire tomb. "What's inside?" Li Hongfang asked casually. If she is really ready to join, then it is not appropriate to ask, because after joining, everyone will get what they want, and you can't control what others want. This is the rule. Now she has not revealed whether she is completely determined to join, but she can ask casually. Lu Chang'an said that Zhou Fenglei sword sect used gold buried in the Han dynasty, which is enough to show that Lu Chang'an paid attention to this tomb number 2 because Zhou Fenglei sword sect was in historically, he may have been involved with Marquis Hai Hun. The fact that Shang Guandandan fell into the hands of Lu Chang'an is proof of this. So Lu Chang'an's request to join Li Jiama was probably not only to prepare funds for the sect, but also to see what Li Jiama wanted to do. After all, the number 2 tomb should belong to the Kyushu Fenglei sword section. Li Hongfang didn't care about anything else. Brother Lu has taken a fancy to it, it belongs to Brother Lu. To tell you the truth, what I want is the ancient prescription for physical fitness found in Tomb No 2. Li Jiama sighed softly. When people reach middle age, their energy and body are not as good as before. I don't lack anything. It's like getting back the feeling of youth. This pussy must be wilted, Li Hongfang thought calmly, then picked up the cup and took a sip of cheap champagne. The champagne water was not as high quality as Shang Guandandan's. My thing, is that I lack energy and am prone to insomnia and dizziness. It's not that there's something wrong with that. Looking at Li Hongfang's obviously contemptuous look, Li Jiama quickly explained that Li Hongfang is so mature. Women are the most realistic. If you are not good at that, let alone pursuing her, it will be too much for her to even look at you. It's none of her business that Li Hongfang continues to drink. It's normal for middle-aged people to have weakness in their crotch. She still wants to pursue herself like this? Li Hongfang couldn't help but put down her wine glass, and thought about the naked back of Brother Lu she saw that day. Judging from his waist and hip lines, he must be very exciting, like a little train. Mr. Li, I'm not talking about you. You're a bit funny, isn't it? The level of modern science and technology can't regulate the body as well as 2000 years ago. Li Hongfang has seen Sunangziu's laboratory and experienced it. Even if Li Jiama can't, he is on the same level as Sunangziu, but he is also one of the richest people in the world. It is also possible for him to focus on the successful application of top-level laboratory-level medicine. There were indeed many mysterious and unexplainable things in ancient times, but digging the grave of a guy who died early and looking for ancient health-preserving formulas is too unreliable. If you don't want to say it, forget it. Why are you teasing me? Li Hongfang sneered and stood up to leave. Seeing that Li Hongfang didn't believe it at all, Li Jiama quickly raised his hand to stop Li Hongfang and sighed, "Xiao Li, listen to what I have to say. I came here to see you with sincerity." Li Hongfang was also pretending. Lu Chang'an had already given an order. How could she not listen? In fact, if Li Jiama doesn't want to cooperate with her now, Li Hongfang will beg to join. So she sat down, looking like she was resting and wanted to see what Li Jiama had to say. I'm not lying to you. When Lu He went to Chang'an from the Hai Han Kingdom to answer the imperial edict, he brought a group of close ministers with him, one of whom was my ancestor. Later, Lu He was deposed, and my ancestors also returned to the Hai Han Kingdom. Therefore, My ancestors knew everything about many things Lu He did and his situation. Li Jiamo lowered his voice at this time. For example, many people believe that the body in tomb number 1 is conclusively identified as Lu He's, then it is definitely not the real Lu He. You mean, you don't want to find the real Lu He's body for the sake of ancient prescriptions? Could it be that the real Lu He's current state is a wet corpse like Grandma Xianzui's, in a living coffin? Li Hongfang was a little surprised. I feel more and more that Li Jiama is determined to win this number 2 tomb, and he has a complicated purpose. Li Jiama waved his hands repeatedly and continued, according to the records of his ancestors, the real Lu He was extremely strong and talented in some aspects, which was probably the effect of some ancient prescription. Lu He entered Chang'an and took over Vying. In the harem, in just 27 days, he finished off all the females in the harem, from young girls to old ladies, and maybe even the queen mother Shangguan was given to him to play with. Li Hongfang opened her mouth slightly, and was so surprised that she was so perverted. It would be great if Brother Lu was so perverted. As his lackey, I would definitely not be let go. Think about it, Huo Guang deposed him. Was it really because he was a waste? Huo Guang could not have wished for a waste emperor. If the Huo family wanted to control the court, they needed the cooperation of such a waste emperor. To depose a waste emperor, finding Emperor Xian was definitely not what Huo Guang really wanted. Huo Guang just couldn't bear it. This Lu He was so outrageous that he made all the females in the harem angry. Such a pervert had no choice but to find a bunch of random reasons to put him abolish it. After all, the royal family wants to lose face. Can Huo Guang tell the world that the emperor he found is like a stallion, sowing seeds wherever he goes? Even the Empress Dowager Shangguan and her horse are not spared. This will not only disgrace the royal family, but also disgrace the royal family. The Huo family is disgraced. The queen mother of Shangguan is also Huo Guang's granddaughter. Li Hongfang clapped her hands. What she said was so reasonable. She had told Lu Chang'an about this before, which made Lu Chang'an unbearable and kicked Li Hongfang. After all, the queen mother of Shangguan is Lu Chang'an's person now. Who wants to listen to his own woman? Have you ever been yelled at before? Thinking of this, Li Hongfang smiled, and Li Jiama also said the same thing. It was a dead end. After all, he didn't have a beautiful ass that Brother Lu could pity. Do ordinary men have such an ability? Lu He relied on the ancient prescription in his hand to make himself gifted. All I want is this ancient prescription of his. I have all the written information unearthed in tomb number 1. I have paid attention to it, but there is no such ancient recipe. Since it is not in tomb number 1, the possibility of it being in tomb number 2 is very high. After Li Jiama finished speaking, he glanced at Li Hongfang. He was indeed very sincere, true and false. At least 67% of the truth came out. The most important thing is that Li Hongfang doesn't like the ancient prescription he needs and doesn't need it. If Li Hongfang wants something else, Li Jiama can give it to him. There is no conflict of needs between the two parties. Li Hongfang shook his head slightly. Ordinary men would also pursue this kind of thing. For example, as long as a certain thing is said to aphrodisiac, it can be eaten to extinction, or become an object of cultivation and breeding. Brother Lu doesn't need this so-called ancient prescription at all. As long as he wants to, there is no problem in destroying all the female animals in Hunan University. I want to bring someone with me. It was time to agree, Li Hongfang said. Okay, you are good at organizing manpower, Li Jiama said happily. Of course, he also has his own manpower, which can form a check with Li Hongfang. It is impossible for him to leave everything to Li Hongfang, but Li Hongfang is sure given her needs, there is no problem in finding someone she feels comfortable with. The man who had hot pot with us yesterday, that. Li Hongfang felt a little proud when he wanted to introduce Lu Chang'an, but for a moment he didn't know how to word it. He thought for a while and said, that gentleman, he is an absolute master in all aspects of What? Li Jiama was deeply impressed by that young man. No one had dared to be so rude to him in many years, and even stopped him from taking off his chopsticks while eating hot pot. If Li Jiama were younger, faced with such rude arrogance, he would probably go berserk on the spot, and then find someone to teach him a lesson. He is a kung fu master, invincible in the world, turning clouds into dragons, and raining down thousands of miles. His knowledge is as deep as the sea, and he is as erudite as the ancient. He is of noble birth, the heir of the sword sect, and can be called the first person in the world. He is resourceful, strategizes and controls everything. He is witty. He is brave and calm. He has a strong heart. Li Hongfang couldn't help but feel a little feverish in his body. Ever since he met Lu Chang'an, he seemed to have been poisoned by him. Only being by his side can relieve the addiction. Wait. Li Jiama felt that even if he was not Li Hongfang's suitor, he would not be able to stand hearing someone describe a person in such an exaggerated way. Xiao Li, it's okay if you like him. There is no need to indulge yourself, they are not even awake. Are you talking about humans? This is God. Ah, he is my God. Li Hongfang suddenly felt how wonderful and romantic it was to worship a man and regard him as a god. Li Jiama couldn't help but sneer. It seems that no matter how good a woman is, she will become confused and become a fool when she really meets the love she likes. I spent all my time today coding, and even more in the evening. I wish everyone a great year of the ox. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kuikan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 833. Lu Chang'an came to the classroom. After a winter vacation, the total capacity of the classroom increased a lot. The girls are more round and round, while most of the male students, except for a few, are more energetic and fierce, with faces filled with enthusiasm that they are ready to attack their classmates. After all, I didn't find a girlfriend last year. I got together with my old classmates during the winter vacation and watched the ordinary girls transform in college. I regretted not taking action in time in high school, so my desire to get out of singles this year changed. Got to be more passionate. It's just that there are not many girls in this class, and there has always been a situation where there are too many monks and too few people. Excluding Zhu Huntang, who is of a different species from everyone else, and Tong 11, who is already having an affair with Qin's Haiqiang, the number of girls in the class who are suitable for targeting can be counted on one hand. Yan Qingcheng suddenly became a hot target. Many people have been looking forward to being single and starting a new life after entering college. Who knows that a semester has passed and the single status has not changed? How can you not be anxious? When Lu Chang'an walked into the classroom, Yan Qingcheng saw him, looked at him, and nodded slightly to say hello. Yan Qingcheng's feelings towards Lu Chang'an are very complicated. It's not the ambiguous feeling between a man and a woman. She simply feels that this man, Yan Qingcheng, is very grateful to him, but also a little afraid of him. She treats him in all kinds of ways. She couldn't tell whether the rumors were true or not, and she saw that he had done many things that subverted her view of the world, but he did not provoke or bully her. Lu Chang'an came over directly. Yan Qingcheng sat with the girls, Tong 11 was next to her, and behind her was a row of boys who loved learning. They deliberately approached the girl with the best academic performance in the class and sat in the front row in the middle of the classroom. Yan Qingcheng leaned against the chair involuntarily, her body straightened and slightly nervous. Lu Chang'an watched her coming over, wondering what he was going to do. The counselor said that you brought souvenirs for her when you went home during the Chinese New Year. Do you have my share? Lu Chang'an asked. Yan Qingcheng opened her mouth and nodded involuntarily. That's good, bring it to me when you have time. After Lu Chang'an finished speaking, he left. Tong 11 couldn't help laughing next to her, because when Lu Chang'an came over, several girls in the class were a little nervous because they didn't know what he was going to do. Lu Chang'an's temperament and momentum were completely different from those of the classmates, especially when they thought about it. All the rumors about him as a student master made him look down upon others, which made him feel oppressive. Now that he was gone, he felt relaxed. He was just a classmate, so Tong 11 found it funny. In fact, Lu Chang'an was not as scary as everyone thought. "Chinzi, why do you feel so afraid of him even though you have the most contact with him?" Tong 11 asked puzzledly. She had only had direct contact with Lu Chang'an twice, and felt that Lu Chang'an was actually quite easy to talk to, even though his posture and eyes are a little cold, but he is never deliberately arrogant or look down on others. On the other hand, that Zhu Huntang, although very cute, also laughed and joked with the girls, and even took the initiative to give everyone a lot of gifts, but, there is an indescribable feeling, and occasionally I feel that she really thinks that she is a fairy, and others people are just mortals, inferior to her. But no one will hate Zhu Huntang, because she is so good looking, and her dressing style has extraordinary taste, which makes people envious. Am I afraid of him? Yan Qingcheng came back to her senses and nodded vigorously. She usually interacted with Lu Chang'an. On the surface, it was normal. It was impossible not to be afraid in her heart. She feels that it is impossible for him to bully her, but she is also worried that she will eventually be attracted to him and become the target of his evil deeds. For Yan Qingcheng, who has never naively yearned for a campus romance, this kind of man is full of temptation but rationally feels dangerous. Fortunately, she was calm and not dizzy. She was in pretty good condition now. She didn't have too much affection for him and became obsessed with him. This was completely different from some girls in the class calling his name in their dreams. Same. Why did he ask you for a specialty? That scraper is so delicious, Tong 11 asked curiously. Maybe it's because he helped me find a part-time job, and I think I should thank him. After Yan Qingcheng said it, he felt something was wrong. Lu Chang'an is not the kind of person who takes credit. Maybe there is no other reason at all. He is. I wanted it, so I asked. Tong 11 laughed again. Qin's Haiqiang's roommate was quite interesting. Qin's Haiqiang should learn from him. Qin's Haiqiang was a nice person, but he was too nice. He asked Tong 11 for his opinions and preferences on everything, as if he himself there are no requirements or needs. What is the relationship between him and Zhu Huntang? One time I seemed to hear Zhu Huntang mumbling about how he was beaten by Lu Chang'an again today. Oh my god, Lu Chang'an really dared to hit Zhu Huntang. On the other side a girl lowered her voice and said in disbelief. No, Lu Chang'an still cares about Zhu Huntang. Yan Qingcheng was sure of this. At first, she thought it was a bit ridiculous for Qin Yanan and Zhu Huntang to be beaten together by Lu Chang'an in the hotel. At this time, Zhu Huntang walked into the classroom, and the girls stopped gossiping and looked at Zhu Huntang looking around at the door of the classroom for a few times before walking towards the direction where Lu Chang'an was sitting. Lu Chang'an was originally sitting with Qin's Haiqiang, Wei Xuanyi, and Sun Shutong. When he saw Zhu Huntang walking towards him, he directly changed to sit in the corner of the last row. Zhu Huntang first observed the tables and chairs, then took out a bottle of spray with no packaging and no instructions from his bag, sprayed it on the tables and chairs, then put a small cushion on it and sat down. She pulled the two corners of the small mat, twisted and moved a few times, adjusted her posture, placed her hands neatly on the table, looked at the front of the big classroom and said, "The first day of school is, be good." Lu Chang'an glanced at her. It would be great if she was really a good baby. Why did you run to the back and sit here when you saw me coming? Zhu Huntang actually likes to sit in the corner of the last row, where it is less likely to attract the teacher's attention. What makes Zhu Huntang very irritated is that many teachers in class are usually unwilling to indulge or ignore Zhu Huntang. Instead, they pay more attention to her condition, often criticize her, and even write comments and scolds on her homework, which makes her very irritated. It's a pity that it is almost impossible to buy Xiang University. Otherwise, Zhu Huntang can do whatever she wants. She will fire any teacher who dares to look at her in class. You have a problem with your brain. There is nothing you can do about it, and it will not affect your future. But my classmates are just ordinary people. I am afraid that your thoughts and behavioral habits will affect others, lower their IQ and EQ, and make others' mistakes in some routine social interactions may cause difficulties in other people's lives and work. Lu Chang'an is also a careful and considerate person, and will naturally think about his classmates. This is very necessary. Many students were very confused and doubtful about life when they overheard some of Zhu Huntang's remarks. "Hey," Zhu Huntang shouted nonchalantly, and then said, "I greeted Dandan and Dongdong very well today. They wanted to eat the buffet, so I reserved the hotel's buffet restaurant, and then asked the hotel's people piled all the buffet items together to make a hill, and let Dandan and Dongdong climb up to eat." With that said, Zhu Huntang took out her mobile phone and showed Lu Chang'an the photos she took by the way. "I saw that the meal hill in the photo is larger than a table for 20 people. It can be seen with the naked eye that there are extremely many types of meals. There is even a cow head placed on the hill as an embellishment. There are piles of various kinds of food below. Juicy meat steaks and seafood, and various fruits are dotted around. Are you crazy?" Lu Chang'an turned his head and felt a little headache. He shouldn't let Zhu Huntang and Shang Guandandan Zhou Dongdong mix together. In the photo, Shang Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong are each wearing a set of white clothes, which are a bit like epidemic prevention clothes, but maybe stronger. After all, many ingredients have sharp shells and bone spurs. The two of them climbed on the hill and for a while standing, sometimes sitting, sometimes lying down, just like two eye-catching fat maggots writhing on a rich meal. "You asked me to take them to dinner yourself," Zhu Huntang was righteously unconvinced. It didn't matter that he didn't praise her, but he even cursed her. If it weren't for being in the classroom, Lu Chang'an would have beaten Zhu Huntang and told her what it was like to take someone to eat under normal circumstances. Lu Chang'an also lived a life of luxury and lust, and the so-called wine pond and meat forest may have been even worse. After recalling it, Lu Chang'an gradually calmed down, sighed and said nothing. What makes Lu Chang'an even more angry is that, forget Zhou Dongdong, he is just a child after all. Shang Guandandan actually enjoys it. Can he be a bit more elegant and reserved like the Queen Mother of the Empire? Now she looks exactly like a plus-sized Zhou Dongdong. She has not forgotten her owl. There is a photo showing her taking drinks from the hotel and filling them bottle by bottle into this oversized thermos. When Zhou Shuling went back to her hometown for a banquet, she just brought home the unopened Wu Liangye that no one had drunk or unopened. Shang Guandandan poured it and packed the drinks directly in the cafeteria. Forget it, it was Zhu Huntang who reserved the place anyway. No one would argue with Shang Guandandan. Lu Chang'an has even thought of a scene. At other times when he went to eat at the buffet, Shang Guandandan was also packing drinks for the restaurant. The waiter came to remind him that Shang Guandandan was probably looking at others with wide eyes and looking at them majestically. On the other hand, he continued to pour drinks into her owl. "You are too poor. Dandan and Dongdong will definitely not have enough to eat," Zhu Huntang complained to Lu Chang'an with some worry. "I will take them to eat in the future." Lu Chang'an didn't say anything. He was a diligent and frugal ordinary person. This was his own living habit. There was no need to force Zhu Huntang to accept the simple and applicable life philosophy of ordinary people. After school starts, Yan Qingchen's class and the student union of the department will not be so busy, and classes can start, Lu Chang'an said, looking at Yan Qingchen in front of him. Knowing that her makeup lessons were unavoidable, Zhu Huntang was not too excited. As the last in the grade, she had to make up the exams for every subject, but she would definitely not be able to pass the makeup exams. Zhu Huntang would not go to class if she was scheduled to retake the exams. Yan Qingcheng can only be used for tutoring. Zhu Huntang held the left and right sides of the cushion with both hands and shook his body, tilting his head to the left and to the right. He didn't care at all. Zhu Huntang was not afraid of making up for classes. Yan Qingcheng came to class and treated it like a bodhisattva chanting sutras. All right. What makes Zhu Huntang most uneasy is that Lu Chang'an will teach him. If she doesn't listen carefully to Lu Chang'an's class, she will be beaten. This bad old man will not show mercy at all. Of course, Lu Chang'an didn't talk about his class now, and Zhu Huntang wouldn't mention it either. She was not a fool. In addition to the book of songs this semester, I will also give you a class on history and cultural knowledge. Zhu Huntang's poor historical and cultural knowledge impressed Lu Chang'an deeply. If he and Zhu Huntang attend certain occasions together in the future, at that time, Lu Chang'an would inevitably feel embarrassed when he heard the nonsense she said there. Zhu Huntang frowned, pursed his lower lip, blew his bangs a few times, and looked at Lu Chang'an incomprehensibly. Lu Chang'an didn't care what her opinion was. The class of history and cultural knowledge should be done reluctantly. After all, although I am knowledgeable and talented, I am still a little convinced by you. You can make up for some of my shortcomings by coming to class. Just the book of songs is not necessary. I am now interested in the book of songs. There is quite a bit of research, so I don't need you to talk about it, I can just read it casually. Zhu Huntang said disapprovingly, why do you still give me a lesson on the book of songs? Don't you believe that I can draw inferences by analogy and draw inferences? After saying this, Zhu Huntang was a little proud. She used these two idioms so well. Most people would definitely not be able to. I believe you. Lu Chang'an gave her a look and let her realize it for herself. Zhu Huntang had no self-awareness at all, just like Shang Guandandan always thought that she was a thrifty queen mother who knew how to live and lived her life shrewdly. After class, Lu Chang'an stopped chatting with Zhu Huntang. He skipped a lot of classes last semester and was not even the first in the grade in the final exam. Although he got the scholarship, he was still a little dissatisfied with himself. Sorry, I entered the author's backend after writing last night, but I made a mistake. I clicked save and went to bed. The chapter was not posted. I apologize to everyone for updating the big chapter later today. Stop scolding me, it's the Chinese New Year. I'm really immortal. Author, Chulian Kui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 834. After class in the afternoon, Zhu Huntang clasped her hands behind her back and followed Lu Chang'an's steps with her little feet. Her skirt swayed left and right, her white stockings reflected the light of justice, and her straight legs were like peeling shells. The spring bamboo shoots are as pretty and tender as spring bamboo shoots. Where are you going to play? Zhu Huntang raised his hand and put it on Lu Chang'an's shoulder. I'm going to find An Nuan. An Nuan is Lu Chang'an's girlfriend, and it's okay for him to go to her, but with a girlfriend like this, he wants to do something with her even if he doesn't have anything to do with her. I want to go. Zhu Huntang has no interest in An Nuan, but he just wants to go. If he can be a light bulb and interfere with Lu Chang'an's date, making him angry, Zhu Huntang will feel very happy. When Zhou Shuling went on a blind date, she didn't take Zhou Dongdong with her. Why should I take you with me? Lu Chang'an moved his shoulder and flicked Zhu Huntang's palm away. Zhu Huntang was not very persistent. After all, doing such a thing was risky. What if he beat himself up in front of An Nuan? That would be too shameless. It's better to go find Qin Yinan. Zhu Huntang walked to Qin Yinan's office, preparing to go back to Lushan Mountain with Qin Yinan. While walking, Zhu Huntang told Zhou Shuling that he would take Guandandan and Zhou Dongdong to play in the evening, and then ask Jin Xiaomei to pick them up and take them to Lushan Mountain. Zhu Huntang not only wanted to play with them, but also had his own strategy in it. If he just went to Qin Yinan to play by himself, Qin Yinan would definitely give Zhu Huntang some food at night and find Shang Guandandan. Qin Yinan would be eager to show off skill, will prepare a sumptuous dinner. In this situation, Shang Guandandan was very easy to use, even better than Lu Chang'an. Zhu Huntang laughed twice. Although Qin Yinan always felt that Zhu Huntang's fairy spirit would lower her baby's IQ, she was repeatedly played by Zhu Huntang. In it without knowing it. Witty, Zhu Huntang praised herself and didn't want to walk anymore. She snapped her fingers and the bread man brought a balance bike to her and rode it to Qin Yinan's office. Customize a balancing car for me that looks like a white cloud and can emit clouds of mist and water vapor, Zhu Huntang ordered without looking back. As you command, Miss Third. Zhu Huntang also thought of this temporarily. She is a fairy, and only this kind of balance car is suitable for her. Lu Chang'an walked over to the School of Business and Technology. As a large school with far more people than the School of Biology, there were many more arrangements and things to do for the start of the semester than here. En Nuan was very busy. After communicating with her, En Nuan refused and Lu Chang'an went first. Her family was waiting for her proposal and asked Lu Chang'an to go home with her. En Nuan is very busy at the beginning of the school year, but Professor Lu is not busy. He is doing nothing at home. Lu Chang'an is quite familiar with the business school. Except for the newly built teaching buildings and dormitory buildings, the layout of other places is not much different from that of 20 or 30 years ago. Just recalling it, the first picture that comes to mind is always a bit yellowish. It's a scene on a hot summer day. It seems that many people recall their alma mater with such colors and sense of seasons. He walked to the periphery of the volleyball court in front of the girls' dormitory. There was a lotus pond next to it. It was the dry season. The lotus leaves were broken and the water was dark. It had been dug over last winter and a lot of lotus roots were dug out. The cafeteria added dishes, and all the teachers and students in the school were treated to free lotus root stewed pork ribs. Many schools are like this. They raise some fish or something in the artificial lake on the campus. After the fish are caught, all the teachers and students of the school eat them for free. It feels very humane and everyone is very happy to eat. Many people have been there for many years after graduation. I can't forget this little thing done in school, which creates a lot of nostalgia. Just like Professor Lu Jianxi has an unforgettable memory of the agricultural and forestry base of Hunan University and the young girls and daughters-in-law from surrounding villages who come to bathe in the canal next to the base. It is because of this sentiment that many well-known foreign universities and scientific research institutions extended olive branches, but Professor Lu Jianxi was not tempted. Thinking about these past events, Lu Chang'an found a boy holding a flower standing not far from him, looking towards the girls' dormitory. Are you here to meet your girlfriend or to confess your love? Confession is more likely. After all, if it is a girlfriend and today is the first day of school, it means that this girlfriend has been together in the last semester and has been together for so long. Today is not a special day. What flowers should I send? It's also possible that someone just cares about their girlfriend. Maybe it's not a common holiday for everyone, but it is a day with special meaning between young lovers. Lu Chang'an frowned. With such a guy standing nearby waiting for his girlfriend, wouldn't it make the empty-handed Lu Chang'an look bad? Do you want to blow a breath and create a small-scale wind that will blow his flowers to pieces? This is not very good, it harms others and does not benefit oneself, and the moral cultivation is too poor. In fact, the better way is to steal his mobile phone and wallet. If he has a date tonight, it will basically be ruined. No matter how good the flowers are, it will only leave a night of embarrassment. Lu Chang'an did not do any of these things. He thought for a while, climbed to the top of the volleyball court fence and stood there, then started whistling a song, Phoenix Seeking Phoenix. What he played was neither the Ming Dynasty Wangji's Zilitang Qin Tong nor the now widely circulated Mayan Qin Pu version, but the Han Dynasty version of Han Chinese Qin music. I saw someone standing on the top of the high fence whistling and matching Sima Xiongru's words. It immediately attracted many people to watch, and some people took pictures with their mobile phones. It was mealtime. Some people went to the canteen to eat, and some came back after eating. Many people gathered here while going back and forth. Seeing the boy holding the flowers drowned in the crowd, Lu Chang'an was very satisfied and blew harder. It wasn't until he saw En Nuan that he stopped and jumped off the top of the fence. "What are you doing?" En Nuan held back her laughter and pulled him out of the crowd of onlookers. There was a guy waiting for his girlfriend with a bunch of roses. It would appear that I didn't care about my girlfriend, so I attracted a crowd and drowned him. Lu Chang'an explained what he did. En Nuan punched him. She was not the kind of girl who, no matter what she got or had received, would be jealous or blame her boyfriend when she saw someone else had something she didn't have now. It's just that many of the students watching know En Nuan. Today, someone will gossip about her boyfriend again. Lu Chang'an's name will be spread more widely in the business school. When chatting in the girls' dormitory just now, Bai Wanwan was talking about how she had checked in at Lu Chang'an's rice noodle shop. Other classmates also talked about Lu Chang'an's gossip. En Nuan found that Zhao Xiaotong was very interested even though he did not participate. Listening like this Zhao Xiaotong is the little green tea who said she really wanted to get to know Lu Chang'an when they were gossiping about Lu Chang'an in the dormitory last year. At that time, En Nuan's whole body was glowing green with a bitch-like green light all over her body. In fact, En Nuan didn't take Zhao Xiaotong seriously either. She was just a little unfavorable to others. This kind of person had no attraction to Lu Chang'an. En Nuan knew very well what kind of girls Lu Chang'an liked, and there were only 3 of them in the entire Hunan University who deserved vigilance. We were eating out in the evening. Professor Lu said that she had found a very popular private restaurant and she had already made a reservation. En Nuan said, "What kind of private restaurant's menu is better than what I cook for?" Professor Lu is so blessed that he never knows how lucky he is, Lu Chang'an said disapprovingly. Yes, whenever Lu Chang'an made a sarcastic or objectionable comment to Lu Yuang, En Nuan would raise his legs and step forward proudly, loudly agreeing. At this time, Lu Chang'an saw the flower man walking over quickly, seemingly directed at En Nuan, and he couldn't help but frowned. "En Nuan, I'm happy." Lu Chang'an turned around, covered his mouth with his backhand, and then rushed him into the lotus root pond with lightning speed. "Ah, what happened?" Lu Chang'an acted too quickly. En Nuan didn't realize what happened for a while, and looked at Lu Chang'an in surprise. "How come anyone dares to confess to you?" Lu Chang'an clapped his hands, hugged En Nuan and continued walking slowly. "What, are you confessing to me?" En Nuan didn't even hear clearly what the man said just now. She just recalled that Lu Chang'an threw the person like a spear just now, which felt funny. "Well, did I do something wrong?" Yes, it's my fault. It's my fault that I'm too good looking. Even with your reputation as a top student who is full of crimes, I can't suppress my eagerness to express my feelings." And Nuan had to take the blame. "I think so." The 2 people walked slowly and soon came to the golden willow that Lu Chang'an had rescued. Now it had lush branches and leaves, as if it was reborn. "The golden willow is really beautiful," En Nuan said with some admiration. "Last year it was withered and about to die, but now it is swaying with a crown full of golden buds. It is extremely beautiful. Boyfriends always do things that make people feel meaningless at the time, but make people feel a lot more emotional after a while. There is something I have never told you." Lu Chang'an reached out and patted the trunk of the golden willow. En Nuan became vigilant. As long as Lu Chang'an spoke in a serious or deep and gentle tone, he didn't want to be a human being anymore. "When I saved this golden willow, you said that if I could save it, you would hang yourself from the willow branch." Lu Chang'an said affectionately, "This is our agreement, the little things in our love. Every time whenever I pass by, I will think of this incident." In order to avoid you looking for various excuses, I deliberately waited until it was so prosperous with branches and leaves before reminding you that it is time to hang yourself from the willow branch and add a silly thing to our love life. Let's keep it in mind for the future. And Nuanuan glared at Lu Chang'an angrily, but did not push back or hesitate at all. After all, she was a girl who was educated by a bicycle chain. She didn't have so many twists and turns and the tendency of ordinary girls to treat cheating as a girl's privilege. She stretched out her hand and pressed the tree trunk. Hugging the slanting tree trunk, pedaling with both feet, he climbed to a relatively thick branch. She sat down, then moved her butt back, fell down, hooked the branches with her legs, hung her upper body upside down, and then glared at Lu Chang'an. Lu Chang'an was already ready and quickly took photos of En Nuan from multiple angles. En Nuan didn't expect that he could take pictures, so she quickly climbed onto the branch, jumped down from the tree, and quickly grabbed the phone. "Delete it for me." Lu Chang'an had already stuffed his cell phone into his trouser pocket and held it down, looking at En Nuan with a smile. En Nuan reached out and took it out, but instead of forcing it, she looked at Lu Chang'an with a smile. "Do you know why I dare to hang upside down like this today, and I'm not afraid of being exposed?" Lu Chang'an had not thought about this problem. She did not tuck the hem of the lining into her pants. Her top was turned back just now, exposing her flexible waist. However, she did not notice what she was wearing underneath. It seemed that she could completely eliminate the possibility of exposure in this situation. "I'm wearing a high-slit one-piece underwear." And Nuan pulled the collar of her clothes and raised the corners of her mouth slightly. "Ordinary gay men may not know what this is, or they may misunderstand what it looks like. It's that kind of jumpsuit. Do you understand the bikini style? High slits, do you know what high slits mean? Even the waist. There's no need to seduce me. I've deleted the photos just now." Lu Chang'an took out his phone and operated it a few times, then waved his hand. She didn't need to use this method at all. Vulgar. And Nuan smiled slightly, jumped on his back, hugged his neck, pressed her cheek on his shoulder, and swayed her calves with his steps, and was carried home by him. "In the new year, I will be diligent and ask for all kinds of things.